Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, am I the jerk for telling my aunt to pay for her own Peacock premium account because she doesn't like my profile picture? I'm a college student, so I had a way of getting Peacock premium for a reduced rate. I originally got it for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but I have branched out. That said, since Five Nights at Freddy's holds a special place in my heart, the profile picture I set for myself is Freddy Fazbear himself. Either way, this is not about that. You might be wondering why my aunt has my Peacock account. The answer is my uncle. My dad, my dad's fiance, Maria, and I went to visit my grandparents, and it turns out my Uncle Jerry was visiting from out of state. We visited on football night, so my grandfather, my dad, and Uncle Jerry were trying to watch the game. Bad news, whatever my grandpa uses to get his channels on his TV failed. Uncle Jerry said we could use Peacock to watch it, but since they don't have an account, they'd need to pay for it. This is where I came in. I signed in on his iPad and they watched it a bit on there, but then they wanted to scale up, so I signed in on my grandparents' Fire Stick. Simple as that. They enjoyed the game and then soon we left for home. A few days passed and I didn't hear anything, but then I got a text from my Aunt Melinda, Jerry's wife, saying, "You need to change your picture on your Peacock account. It's too scary for me and the kids." Uncle Jerry has two sons, and they're 10 and 7. They're also very much of Christian faith, so I bring that up because their household is not conducive to horror. However, Freddy holds a dear place in my heart for many reasons that I won't outline here. I told Aunt Melinda that I didn't want to, and she said that I need to. I then told her, if you don't want to see Freddy every time you open Peacock, get your own account, and I stopped responding. Aunt Melinda is a particularly vindictive person, so I think that's why she didn't respond directly to me after that. Later on, I got a call from my dad asking me what had happened, and I had to explain. He wasn't mad per se, but wasn't exactly proud. Here's everyone's position. Aunt Melinda wants me to apologize and change my profile pic. Uncle Jerry says I should consider doing it for Aunt Melinda and the boys. Dad says that I have a point and that it's my prerogative, but says there will be an impact. Maria says that since I'm the one paying for the account, I have the final say. Mom told me I wasn't in the wrong at all, and I should change my password and sign out of all devices that aren't mine. I am mentally at a stalemate personally. Should I give this up? Should I just change it? Do you think it'll blow over? Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but wow. You're giving Aunt Melinda and Uncle Jerry free access to Peacock. If they don't want Five Nights at Freddy's avatar grinning gruesomely at them, then they need to buy their own account. Technically, because they're using your account, they're stealing. Peacock would prefer that they pay for their own account and not ride on yours. That's why Netflix stopped allowing sharing. Good luck. My husband quit his job and now he just plays video games all day. My husband, 37 male, and I, 35 female, have been married for 9 years and we have 2 kids who are 5 and 8. Before we got married, we had a conversation about what we wanted from each other and what some of our main goals were. 2 of our biggest goals were that he wanted a stay-at-home wife when we had kids and I wanted a small homestead. He never wanted me to work and I agreed, and he agreed we could have a small homestead. I used my savings to buy our house, which had 5 acres of land on it, so that we wouldn't have to rent as he didn't have anything saved up at the time. Keep that in mind because it will come up later. I had also bought all kinds of seeds to plant and chickens. After about 3 months, I became pregnant with our first son and everything seemed wonderful. Fast forward 4 years later and I'm pregnant with our daughter, and I'm selling our vegetables and flowers and eggs, etc. from our homestead and began to make some cash on the side. My husband thought it was great and would make jokes about how now he can relax. After I had our daughter, he started complaining about how he wanted to be home more to spend time with us and to help with the homestead, so I suggested he work part-time. He worked part-time for 2 years, then quit his job altogether. But the second year, he barely helped me with our homestead and instead played a lot of video games, which was fine. I was used to doing the homestead on my own and he still worked part-time, so it wasn't a big deal at the time. He then quits his job and for 1 year does nothing. We argued almost every day. He drank almost every day and did nothing but play video games and have bonfires with his friends on our property for an entire year. I've worked hard to get our land where it needed to be, and I've started a flower business and beekeeping for honey, which has been going strong for the past year, which has made us more money and is the biggest reason why he completely quit his job. At this point, we've been married for 7 years. I ended up sitting down with him and having a conversation on why he doesn't help me and his behavior of drinking every day. But he said he was just taking a break and that I owed him for all the time he paid the bills and I was at home apparently living it up. I explained to him that even though I didn't work, I still contributed to our home. He had a home-cooked meal almost every day, and I worked hard on the land and in home, plus took care of our kids and bought our house, so it wasn't as if I did nothing. He became irate with me and started saying that I was a nagging jerk, and I was literally speechless as he had never spoke to me this way before. Fast forward another year and he's doing the same stuff, only his best friend from multiple states away calls him and tells him that he's moving 20 minutes away from us. His friend starts coming over almost every day, only he starts talking to my husband about his behavior. And my husband starts hearing his best friend compliment me on our garden and flowers, etc. And my husband begins getting irritated over it. And when his friend isn't around, he mocks him in front of me and starts accusing me of liking him. I told him that it seemed as he was projecting his own feelings as he's done nothing for this family for the past 2 years and that I've never cheated on him, and if he didn't want his friend over, then he should talk to him about it. He said no and that it was my fault. Fast forward 4 months. It's been 9 years now and I'm at the end of my rope. His drinking has only become worse. His friends and family have tried talking with him and he absolutely hates me and feels like I ruined his life. He calls me his goody two-shoes wife, and until now I haven't given up on him, but I just can't keep going like this. His best friend made a pass at me and told me he would take care of me and that my husband has turned into a bum. I told him no, and that even if I divorced him, that I would never turn around and date his friend, and which I told my husband about. A few nights ago, my husband had a bonfire party as it was his birthday. He got wasted, and I caught him kissing one of his other friends' wives, and his best friend and him got into a physical fight over it. His best friend told him he wasn't man enough for me, and they fought again. My husband began yelling and calling me his perfect goody two-shoes wife with her perfect sourdough bread and her perfect this and perfect that. I explained to him that I'm not perfect and I don't understand why he says this. He screamed at me and told me everything was my fault and that I ruined everything. He made such a huge scene with all of our friends there, and I made him a homemade carrot cake as it was his favorite, and he smashed it. After the party was over, he ended up waking up our son with his yelling, and our son came up to him and yelled at him to stop, but my husband wouldn't. I tried calming my husband down and telling him to stop yelling in front of our kid and to open his eyes, thinking that would get him to stop, and my son looked at him and yelled that he hated him. My husband became quiet and looked down at him and then looked at me and said that I was now turning his own son against him. I put him back to bed and told him that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, but that everything was going to be okay, and I cuddled with him until he fell asleep. My husband argued with me some more, said that I emasculated him, and passed out on the kitchen floor. All I've tried to do is my best. I don't drink, I dress modestly, I cook and clean, and I'm called a goody two-shoes by my husband, and for some reason, I feel bad about it. I feel like it's my fault. Maybe I should have told him no years ago when he wanted to stop working, but he's a grown man. I don't know what to do or how to go further, but I can't keep living like this, and I can't make him do anything. Am I a stick in the mud and not fun anymore? I don't know, and he's got me looking in the mirror. Maybe I'm too serious. Our kids are noticing now, and they can't start thinking this is normal because it's not. I don't even know who he is anymore. Did me making money from our homestead emasculate him? Am I going to turn into a statistic single mom now? Probably. It sucks because no one will want their family apart, but I feel that there's nothing else I can do, and I feel therapy will be needed afterwards because I'm doubting myself. This morning, he left to one of his friend's houses and said that if I tried divorcing him, that no one would want me, and that he would take half of everything, and that I would be forced to sell our home and business. But we signed a prenup, and I think he forgot about that. But still, who says that to the person they love? I feel so depleted. You're not the jerk. I would seek out a lawyer just in case, because your relationship sounds finished. It's sad he can't see what he has. I would love a woman like you. But relationships are work, and both parties need to work on it together. Best of luck. Am I the jerk for not including my son's adopted kid in my will? My wife and I are in our 60s. We're thinking of retiring soon, and we're trying to get our finances and everything we own in order. For example, we're finally selling our old house because it's too big and we don't need it. We want to live in a quieter place and a smaller house. We have 3 kids who are all adults by now. Each of our kids have their own kids as well. We have a daughter with 1 kid, a son with 2, and another son with 2 biological kids and a stepdaughter. Our youngest son was married. About 10 or so years ago, he cheated on his wife and they got divorced. He cheated with his current wife, then he adopted her daughter. We want to divide our state between our kids and our grandkids. We had a family gathering to talk about some of these things, especially the house, in case any of our kids wanted to buy it themselves. Our son got very angry when he heard that we were cutting off his adopted kid from the will. We told him she's not our family and we don't support his life choices and how he ruined his family. He told us to stop holding a grudge for something that happened years ago and accept the kid or cut him and his family off. My wife and I think that his new wife and the kid are living proof of him ruining his family. Do you think we're wrong in this? She is a kid and he's right that she's his, but does that automatically make her our family? He said we're treating his wife and daughter poorly and we're acting like jerks towards a kid. The stepdaughter and the adopted daughter are the same girl. My son married her mother, then adopted her. She was 1 or 2 years old when my son and her mother started their relationship. We don't see or talk to each other often, only at family gatherings. They live in another state. She doesn't call us her grandparents. What each of our kids is getting are family heirlooms and not money. All the money will be distributed between our grandkids in our will to hopefully help them get their education paid for. My son doesn't have contact with his ex-wife or his biological kids. He cut them off and didn't even want to pay child support. My wife and I helped our daughter-in-law and our grandkids. To make it clear, what my son is getting from us is some photos and items from his early childhood that we kept. It's essentially trash, but we like to look at them every once in a while to remember our kids' childhoods. He isn't getting money or jewelry. I'm getting a lot of comments here. For those who wonder if the girl could actually be biologically my son's daughter, I don't know, and it doesn't make a difference to me or my wife. For those who say that love should be unconditional, I disagree. Love is always conditional to the bare minimum to maintain a bond. That's my opinion. Yes, my son's 2 biological kids, the ones he had with his first wife, are in the will. Our grandkids are getting some heirlooms too. The things we're giving to our son aren't things that our other 2 kids would want. For those who are saying that I would neglect a kid adopted by my son under different circumstances, no. This is all about the circumstances in which this girl and my son's new wife came into the family. I don't care if she's adopted or biological, it'll be the same for me. The circumstances in which my son cheated, which is bad enough, and proceeded to kick his family out and abandon them are the reason why neither my wife, me, or the rest of the family has a good relationship with the 3 of them. My 2 other kids agree with us, and they aren't close to their brother either. Not the jerk. It's your money and you get to decide how it's split. I do think it's unfair though to exclude the kid and not your son. After all, he's the one that nuked his previous family, not the kid. I'd personally write him out and include the kid, but that's me. So let me get this straight. You don't support your son's life choices and how he ruined his family, yet you give him an inheritance and not his adopted daughter because of what your adult son has done? Your money, your choice. But honestly, you're the jerk because of how you treat this kid who had nothing to do whatsoever with her adoptive dad. It's not just about the inheritance. The way you write about her makes you a jerk. My wife and I think that his new wife and the kid are living proof of him ruining his family. Don't get me wrong, your son is a major jerk for cheating. But in my opinion, you are as much of a jerk by blaming the kid and treating her differently only because she reminds you of what your son did. You act as if you were a victim in this whole story. Poor us. This kid is a constant reminder of how our son that we raised acted badly towards his wife. Am I the jerk for asking my sister, what did you expect, after her husband left her for a younger woman? I'm 48 female. My sister Caroline, who's 45, has spent the past 20 years bragging that because she's 10 years younger than her husband, Ethan, who's 55, that by the time she hits 40 plus, Ethan's love drive will have plummeted too low to pursue others, and the 20-somethings won't want to date a man who's past 35. Ethan was 34, and my sister a week from turning 24 when they first got together officially. At the time, 34-year-old Ethan was a newly minted senior VP with a 35-year-old wife, Emma, and a 4-year-old daughter. Ethan told her that Emma became a sanctimonious mommy type after she gave birth, stopped waking up at 5 a.m. to exercise, wouldn't hook up with him anymore, and became a negative nagging shrew. Ethan physically left Emma for Caroline, but it was Emma who filed for divorce. Caroline was angry because she claims Emma was the one who filed for divorce, yet she's the one who became bitter and hostile after the divorce happened. For a while, I sympathized with Caroline because everybody criticized her relationship. However, it felt like Caroline and Ethan made the fact that Ethan was punching above his weight in terms of having a younger woman their entire personality as a couple and individuals. I think it's because Ethan was poor into his early 20s and said he thought the best he could ever do was the sort of attractive, after a few beers, truck stop waitress. Back then, it was much easier for somebody with no connections to rise, and Ethan did. Then, after his divorce and before marrying Caroline, Ethan started his own firm and began making even more money. Caroline signed a prenup but maintained that it would never be used. Caroline laughed when Emma told her there's always younger women out there, and Caroline replied that she asked Ethan, and he said a 10-year age gap is gigantic to him, and that Caroline was the combination of somebody who he'd always see as much younger, while also being able to relate to her. Caroline would also say, in a place where her stepdaughter could hear her saying it, that Emma has aged so much faster than Ethan, and that she's likely regularly mistakenly referred to as her daughter's grandmother. Well, all this about "he will always see me as much younger" disappeared a few years ago. Caroline started becoming very withdrawn and miserable. She'd act out in ways, but Ethan would not even bat an eye to her antics. Then suddenly, just before the holidays, Ethan picked a fight by telling her her hand mannerisms are annoying and left the house. She found out he was living with a 24-year-old assistant he hired with no experience. Now, despite texts saying their 3 kids miss him and she doesn't deserve this, he's filed for divorce. Caroline came to me crying and would go on rants about how Ethan will realize the 24-year-old sees him as a grandpa. I rolled my eyes and said, "What did you expect?" And that I had no sympathy when for years I had to listen to her saying age gap detractors are bitter losers and that Ethan will always see her as a prize. I also told her that 10 years is barely the starting point when it comes to trophy wife relationships. She got angry and screamed, "Are you calling me old when Ethan's pushing 60?" and left. Am I the jerk? Now she knows why he really left his first wife. Not the jerk for saying what you said. She forgot the old saying, if he's willing to cheat with you, he'll cheat on you. She should have known this day was coming. Not the jerk, but never date an older man who's married. He will always look for a younger version. It's a bummer your sister didn't learn this, but now she knows. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Not the jerk. Okay, I'm ready for the downvotes. So before I retired, I was in a C-suite position with a very high salary. I had been married for 8 years and we had 2 daughters together. I never cheated on my wife, but I did divorce her when I realized how strong the feelings were that I was developing for my secretary, who was in her mid-20s while I was 48. So was it the fact that I wanted a younger woman? No, her youthful beauty was just a plus. It was simply the fact that my secretary treated me with respect and looked up to me as the leader. While my wife, all she did was nag and complain, and always had a terrible attitude with me. I told her several times that if she didn't change this, I would leave her. I was at work all day being treated like a king from this woman who actually saw value in me. Then I'd go home to my wife who treated me like dirt. When I divorced her and married my secretary, family on both sides did not approve, and I know they all thought I was a monster. But now, 10 years later, we are still happily married and we have 3 kids of our own. Guess what? She still treats me with the love and respect that my ex-wife never could. My ex has even admitted over the years that she knows she wasn't treating me the way that she should have been. And she knows that's why I left. Anybody who's being treated like dirt in their relationship has the right to leave, whether male or female, and regardless of how much you make. All this to say, when you're married to a man worth millions, make sure you treat him with respect, because if you don't, someone else will. I heard my in-laws talking about getting my wife back together with her ex. I, 35 male, have been with Abby, 35 female, for 13 years now. Every day that goes by, I love her more and more, and we're even expecting our first baby. For the holidays, we always stay 2 to 3 months visiting my wife's family, but the problem is that this year, all the family was really excited, saying that Alan was coming. In all the years in the family, I never heard of an Alan, and my wife didn't even care about it, so I thought it was just some cousin. But the famous Alan was my wife's ex and first love. The man lives in Europe, but Abby's family still have contact with him and even invited the man to the house now that he's in the country. I tried to get along with Alan, but the man just ignores me and takes every chance to get closer with my wife, making jokes or talking about the past. I didn't take it personally because I don't want to look jealous, but lately he's been coming over every day to visit the family, and Abby's family started comparing his accomplishments to mine. They're all big fans of Alan, and I honestly feel jealous of that because they're treating him much better than me. 2 days ago, I heard my mother-in-law and brother-in-law talking about how nice it would have been for Abby to have stayed with Alan because he's a smart man. What hurt me the most was hearing my brother-in-law say that he can try to get Alan and Abby back together, and my mother-in-law just laughed, saying that it would be good to go on a trip to Europe every year and not to the countryside with the peasant, talking about me because I live on a farm with my wife, just because she always dreamed to live in that kind of quiet environment. In fact, now that I'm no longer blindfolded, I'm starting to notice how my brother-in-law makes too many comments to my wife about how great Alan is, although Abby never says kind things about Alan, and I think she even treats him like he's a kid. I don't feel comfortable being here knowing that they see me as a dumb peasant, and it's horrible to see how they try to include Alan in the family when they still treat me like I'm just a casual boyfriend of Abby's. But my wife only sees her family these months of the year, and I don't want to ruin that or put that kind of stress on her since she's pregnant. I feel like I'm in some kind of a romantic comedy, but I'm in the role of the bad husband the protagonist leaves for the handsome CEO. What does your wife say? OP. My wife just ignores Alan, and when my brother-in-law says those things, Abby just says, "If you like Alan so much, then you go be with him," and the conversation ends. When I found out he's her ex, she just said, "Oh yes, I dated him for 2 months when I finished high school," and made a disgusted face. I couldn't ask for more information because she has been really tired with the pregnancy, and I don't want to stress her out anymore. They're this pressed for a guy she dated for 2 months over a decade ago? Was Alan a family friend or something? It just feels weird to me that they like him this much, having known you for 13 years. Have they always disliked you? OP. From what I heard, he lived in the same neighborhood, but they were never close until Abby started dating him. When he moved to Europe, the family still had contact with him through Facebook and WhatsApp, and some members of the family even stay in his house when they take trips to Europe. So it seems the aunts and cousins are really close with him. They always made jokes about our farm life, and I know my mother-in-law hates that Abby has gone to live so far away from them. She always hides her dislike for me, although I can feel the cold treatment she always gives me. My brother-in-laws always made it obvious that they didn't like me for taking their older sister away. The rest of the family treats me well or just normal, but Alan is really charismatic. Plus, they're all really extroverted people, and I'm more on the quiet side, so I think it's easier for them to like him more. Update. After making this post and reading the comments, I decided to talk with Abby about what I heard. We were in our room, and I talked about what her mother and brother said as calmly as possible. But the moment I finished telling her everything, Abby just kissed my forehead and ran with her pregnant belly out of the bedroom to literally yell at everyone in the living room. No one spoke besides an aunt who tried to justify them by saying they were just making jokes, to which I replied that they were uncomfortable and disgusting jokes. At some point, Abby told her mother something like, "Whether you like it or not, I'm married to this man. I'm going to have this baby with him and many more, so shut up and bear with it." Then my wife yelled at her brothers and went with them to talk in private. My brother-in-laws talked with me and admitted that they were only doing that because they believed I was forcing Abby to marry and live on a farm far away from the family when it was actually Abby's idea to get married in private and live on the farm. So all of these years, it had just been a misunderstanding. The 3 brothers apologized to me and were really embarrassed about their behavior, saying they only invited Alan to mess with me. After that, most of the family members apologized to us. Abby told everyone that she doesn't want to see Alan in the house anymore while we're here. She's not going to forbid them to talk with him, but doesn't want to see him near her because it's uncomfortable. Mother-in-law tried to complain, but Abby just said, "Shut up, Mom," and left the living room with me. In private, Abby confessed to me that she also felt uncomfortable, but since Alan is a friend of the family, she preferred not to say anything other than throw passive-aggressive comments at him. For example, after New Year's, we were all eating, and Alan felt her belly without asking first, to which my wife said, "Do it again and I'll hurt you." So he never did it again. Abby even said that she had actually talked with Alan that she dislikes when people do that, but Alan said she was overreacting and left her talking alone. I feel really stupid for not noticing how uncomfortable my wife was feeling because after that, she was avoiding Alan around the house and she said that it was because she was tired from her pregnancy. Just out of curiosity, I asked her why she broke up with Alan if he's such a cool man, because I'll admit it, he's really charismatic, and Abby told me that he always treated her like he thought he knew everything and explained things that she had already knew every time they talked. Abby never felt the need of talking about that relationship because it wasn't really relevant, and she sees me as her first love and not Alan. I apologized to Abby for not noticing how uncomfortable she was and only looking at my own feelings without talking about it as a couple, and Abby also apologized for the same. We promised to communicate this kind of thing to each other no matter what. Yesterday, we went on a date together, and when we came back, my mother-in-law looked very unfriendly, but she apologized to my wife, to which Abby said she should apologize to me. So mother-in-law and I talked for a while alone, and although I'm still upset, we promised to at least be civil with each other for Abby and the baby. We decided the next time to stay in one of the hotel rooms while we're here. Even if it's a 3-hour drive, it would be better for us to be comfortable, and 3 months in my in-laws' house was always really tiring, so it's something we should have done earlier. For now, Alan is no longer in the picture because yesterday I got his number to send a message clarifying why he can't come back to the house and why I don't want him near my wife. The man just blocked me without answering. I guess he understood, but if he didn't, I don't have any problem talking to him about it face to face. P.S. Alan came back to the country because he divorced his wife, and he's flirting with women, so it seems he thought it was a great idea to try and flirt with my pregnant wife. My Karen neighbor steals my package and really regrets it. I, 30 female, am a hobbyist, and as such, I order additions to my collection that are delivered via post or courier. Now, my entitled neighbor, 28 female, moved into her house roughly 3 months ago with her 9-year-old son. I was close friends with the people who lived there previously, and I had them listed as trusted neighbors to deliver my packages to if I'm not home. Since she moved in, I have changed that with the post services, but unfortunately, there are a few of the delivery people who have not had the information. Sadly, I've had a few parcels delivered to the entitled neighbor, and when I've gone to collect my parcels, she has denied knowledge or has given me an already open package and used the excuse that her son accidentally opened it. So last week, I had a delivery coming in with several special and expensive additions to add to my collection and decided to work from home to make sure I received my package. I started work at my usual time of 9 a.m., having double-checked that my doorbell was set to its loudest setting and got on with my work. I have a tendency to get absorbed into my work, so by the time I realized that it was 12:30 p.m. and my package was supposed to have been delivered before then, I started to worry. The first thing I did was check my emails to see if I had been notified of a delay. My heart sank when I saw the message saying that my package had been delivered to my selected neighbor. I left my house and went straight to my neighbor's house to knock on her door. When she opened the door, she gave me a look that said she was definitely not happy to see me. Me. Hi, entitled neighbor. I just had a notification that my package has been delivered here. May I please have it? Karen. There's nothing here. Me. I was emailed by the courier service that they delivered it to your address. My neighbor was obviously getting angry. I just told you there's nothing here for you. Me. Please, can you… Before I could finish the sentence, she slammed the door in my face. I was obviously annoyed and knocked on her door again, and I waited, but she completely ignored me for at least 10 minutes. Feeling frustrated, I went back home and called the courier service, wanting the delivery person to come back and make sure I got my package back. I was on hold for quite a while before I finally got through to someone. Just as I was telling the service operator what was happening, my doorbell rang several times. Then there was repeated loud banging coming from my front door, followed by the bell again. I asked the operator to hold on for a moment while I checked who was at my door. I opened the door, and there was entitled Mom, red-faced, with her son who was crying. Karen. There's a huge spider loose in my house because of you. Yes, I collect tarantulas, true spiders, and lots of other inverts. At first, I was scared that entitled Mom might have hurt my new tarantula, but I couldn't keep my sarcasm out of my voice. Me. Oh, so you did get my package after all. Yes, and now there's a huge spider in my living room. You need to get it out of my house now. Me. One moment. I closed my door and talked to the operator who had heard everything. Since I had already told them what was in the package, they were laughing down the phone. I told them I'd have to go rescue my spider from the crazy Karen. I grabbed a catch cup and a paintbrush from my spider room and opened my front door again. Entitled Mom was still stood there looking furious, and her son was now completely sobbing. Me. Okay, show me where it is. Karen. I hate you. I couldn't help but smile as Karen took me into her house and showed me to her living room where my package was on the floor next to a knife that had obviously been used to open it and the container that the new tarantula had been shipped in. Thankfully, the tarantula was simply hiding under her sofa, and I was able to get it to come out with my handy paintbrush and caught it in the catch cup. I put it back into its shipping container, then picked up my package. Me. Got her. Karen. Finally. Now get that thing out of my house. It terrified my son, and I'm arachnophobic. Don't you dare get any more of those things. Me. Excuse me? You're the one that opened my package that was mine, even after I came to collect it. Karen looked shocked. Yes. Well, my son likes to open packages, and I thought it was another one of those gadgets that you get. He loves to play with them. I laughed, as she obviously hadn't realized that she had just admitted to stealing my previous packages. FYI, I work for a company that sends me product prototypes. Me. So you have been stealing from me. I swear, if you ever open one of my packages again, I'm getting the police involved and having you charged with theft. Before she could say anything else, I pushed past her and I went back home. Thankfully, the tarantula was unharmed and was happily settled into her new enclosure. Since then, I've contacted every courier service in my area and demanded that they never leave anything at her address again. There has been one incident where a package from work was delivered to her, but as soon as I knocked on her door, she just handed me the unopened box and closed the door in my face, much to her son's disappointment if his yelling was anything to go by. Moral of the story, don't open someone else's package. It just might contain giant spiders. I lost $100,000 in 4 weeks. Need advice. I'm 36 and not in debt other than my mortgage. I have an 8-month-old daughter and I'm really scared. I've been gambling somewhat randomly since college. I'm well over $300,000 now in losses, most of which was my money, and now $100,000 just in the last 4 weeks. And every time I went back, it was to recover from the day before, but the numbers kept adding up. My wife doesn't know a thing. The money is mine, $100,000 gifted by my dad, who is completely against even wasting a dollar, and who put his trust in me to use it wisely for family, success, and paying down my mortgage. I'm a terrible son. I feel shame and regret to even look him in the eye, knowing what I've done in a matter of weeks took many years for him to make. I still feel I need to go back to get it back. My wife doesn't know yet. Key word. It'll be a very ugly conversation when she finds out. Maybe even walk out on me. Who knows? That kind of money isn't easy to hide, right? I feel depressed, broken, failure. I just want this $100,000 back, and it's too much to lose. A $10,000 loss turned into $15,000, and then plus $7,500, and just downhill from there. Lost all $22,500 and kept going back, losing $10,000 to $15,000 per day at times. What should I do? Talk to my wife? She'll lose it. And if my dad finds out, I'm afraid he won't be able to take it, and I'll be the reason for what happens to him. I'm such a bad son. Update. Something took over me. I can't explain it because I don't know myself what happened. Losing money is evil. It will make you do things out of control. The fight to recover losses kept turning into a losing battle over and over again. So here I am, rock bottom. In just 2 months, I've lost everything in my bank account, $170,000, and also took out $10,000 from credit cards and another $10,000 from personal line of credit. So I'm officially in a gambling debt of $20,000. Now it's a total of $190,000, and it's a harsh reality. What does it feel like? Butterflies in your stomach. The earth just slipped from under your feet, and you feel light, but there's a weight pushing you down. Disbelief because the gambling mind cannot accept what happened, but then reality kicks in because the bank is proof. Shame, disgust, frown, but pretending to smile. Wife doesn't know yet of my situation, so I'm lying to my partner. My 9-month-old daughter, whom I now feel like I've ruined a comfortable life for alongside my wife. I first posted when I had lost $100,000 and everyone told me to stop and tell the truth. I continued to go back over and over because I could not accept it. Bottom line, accept it now, or you're gonna be where I am. Now over $500,000 in losses, out of which $190,000 is very recent. Update. Life feels depressing. I love playing with my daughter, and every time I look at her, the thought crosses my mind. Why did I blow my money at the casino when I should have been using it for her future? College, car, real estate, necessities, the list goes on. Have not told my wife yet, nor has she poked into the bank account that would show nothing but withdrawals in the thousands for the last 2.5 months. Losing strength, stress is getting to me. I picked up debt to gamble and I lost everything. Casinos are temporarily shut down effective today, so good thing that I can't go to do it again. I need to tell my wife, but I don't have the courage because I can't explain how I didn't learn my lesson and ended up losing $200,000. I don't know if she'll understand, and I'm afraid of the shame this brings once everyone in the family finds out. My self-esteem is gone. I'm a wreck, and I'm stressed to no end. Update. Game over. I kept going back to recover big losses, and now I'm sitting here after literally 4 months exactly. $200,000 missing, $75,000 in debt between credit card and line of credit. Barely any money left except to survive. I have a family who doesn't know any of this. I haven't told my significant other, and she's on a trip with my young one. I thought I could take the opportunity to go back to the casino to recover, but that just didn't happen. Instead, I found myself pulling money from my creditors just to gamble and lose it all again. I know my performance at work has been affected. I'm a completely different person physically in the mirror, and the stress has taken that smile and brightness. I'm so sick of this, and I'm going to get better. This is day 1, and I have a plan. 1. Use a HELOC to pay off the expensive debt. 2. Refinance the home for $100,000 when the mortgage is up for renewal in August, and pay off the HELOC. 3. Tell my wife and hope that she can support my recovery instead of walking away. The news, I understand, will be a lot to stomach. 4. Get healthy and back in shape. 5. Cut down on spending and going out to eat. 6. Find a side hustle and a part-time job. And 7. Attend meetings if I can to help me with my problem. I wish I could reverse the last 4 months. I can't, so now I'll spend the next decade trying to recover. My life is a wreck, and I can't do this anymore. Update. I did it again. Can't stop thinking of my wife and my family whom I let down. They don't have a clue as to what I've done. I gambled away my own money and some inheritance. I picked up $70,000 in debt, and I dipped into my wife's account, and I took another $50,000. I'm now walking out of this miserable place, the casino, that has taken everything from me mentally and financially in the last 6 months. $325,000 lost, and the same amount in prior years. I'm $600,000 plus in losses, and there is only one way to stop. I have in my hand a win today, willpower, backed up by a self-exclusion from banning indefinitely. Now the truth must be told to my wife, and I need to protect my family from me. I don't know if I will have a family should my wife not be supportive, but at least I've done what I never thought I would do. Update. It's done. She knows. It came out over the phone because I was at work. Bawled out like crazy. Said sorry she's upset and not responding to texts now, giving her some space. If I go home, either she's there or gone, who knows. Work sucks right now. I want to get out ASAP, but I can't yet. It will be a hectic night, maybe a limited conversation if there is one. I finally got this off my chest, and although nervous, I feel good because it was slowly getting to me with depression and horrible thoughts. Update. Ultimate rock bottom is not money lost, it's trust. For those of you that are single, you still lose trust. My wife, who I don't blame, has opened up to her family and to mine. I feel humiliated, regretful, wish this had never happened, but I also think it's for the better and recovery. Time will heal, but the healing has to start. For those who have yet to share with family about your problems, do so. It's hard at first, stress level really rises in the moment, but in the end, it is what it is. Consequences of actions. I choose to be a better person, finally rid myself of this problem and all others that caused pain to my loved ones. The years of respect I earned, lost. I feel terrible, but I deserve this. Going to move on now and put this past behind me. News will spread like wildfire and humiliation will continue. In the end, it is what it is, as there's no rewinding time, but changing the future. Good luck. I'm proud to own my mistakes, and for me, that's a huge win. January 24th. So much for the ban. Urged to reinstate, and I did. I won $40,000 from just $3,000. Put it all back, plus $30,000 gradual losses of $5,000 to $6,000 after putting back $20,000 the next day. $30,000 debt. No way to repay. All the finances are now handled by my wife. What do I do? Last time was a family crisis. Now I have no choice but to turn to my parents again and say bail me out one last time. The problem is the last time I should have learned my lesson. I really don't know what to do. I can't tell anyone about this or else I'm doomed and I will really hurt my loved ones. If this comes out however it may, I'm definitely getting divorced. I got a wife and kid who I don't want to lose. I want to tell my parents that I had this loan from the last event that turned my whole life upside down, but I fear this will put them through heck and back, knowing they can't trust me. I make good money, but I can't use it now that my partner controls the finances. February 5th. I did it again, and now I've got another $40,000 debt, and no way to repay considering the situation I'm in where my partner controls the finances. I can't let anyone know about this or it's going to be a huge problem. I just can't believe I put myself through this again. I don't even have money left from the last round of stupidity. No more access to loans, and I've already borrowed from friends and family. Now I'm sitting with $500 in my account right now, with bills on the way. This sucks, and I just wish that I could end this financial stress. February 27th. I'm struggling to find the courage to tell my spouse that I messed up a second time and how miserable of a husband and father I am. I worked so hard to dump our money into a casino. I already got my ultimatum the last time after massive losses. Here I am again, reliving the past, except this time it's all out of debt. My head is gonna explode, I'm super stressed and I don't know what to do. I kept thinking, what got me started with all of this? I work hard to earn the money, but money doesn't hold great value to me. Why? Well, I think I have an answer. Throughout my younger years, my pops never let me manage my finances. He always checked my accounts, always wanted to be the one to manage, always led me to believe what he got is mine one day. He's not rich, just normal. I never felt in control, and I never learned to manage well because it was just money. But I see young people now are so cautious of their finances. I'm not sure if what I'm thinking is wrong. I really don't want to blame my parents, but I wish if I had had the freedom to manage my earnings and expenses in my younger years, I wouldn't chase easy money. June 17th. Life is in complete turmoil. Unhappy, depressed, mentally messed up, stressed to no end, regret, unfaithfulness with spouse, fake smiles, hidden cries, you name it, because it's by far the worst list. Numb to value of money between four walls of the devil's house. Outside, the reality hits hard. Now I'm sitting back thinking, why did I do it? Approaching 40, which gives me the chills. August 5th, just confessed to my wife. I'm heartbroken. Don't know what's going to happen now. I deserve any and all punishment again at this point. I couldn't avoid coming clean because I just couldn't live a double life anymore. I hope I come out stronger for our family. August 18th. Today, I did it for the second time. I feel so humiliated again. I had my family walk out the door, and I'm here all alone. More than money, I lost love and I lost trust. October 14th. Wife left with the kid. Debt in over my head. Completely destroyed myself financially because I'd have to sell my house to repay it. Once again, the house has won and we continue to think that we can beat them. What I don't get is how I let this get to where it is without thinking of the consequences. And to make it worse, I had ample time to dwell on repeat mistakes. I'm a wreck and I just wish that I could make it out on top. Restart at 40. That's where I've ended up. I've actually never been to a casino before, and after reading this story, I'm never gonna go to one. Me neither, Karen. Me neither. Am I the jerk for telling my 18-year-old daughter to either sue for child support or get out of my house? I'm 40 female. My 18-year-old daughter, Ava, dropped out of high school after getting pregnant by her then boyfriend, who is 19. Ava will be 19 soon, has no job, and a 10-month-old baby. Her boyfriend, Andrew, moved from Jacksonville, Florida to Miami for college. He never actually broke up with Ava, but instead told her that they were still together and even went as far as to leave a sleeping bag and other toiletries in her room to show her that they were essentially a family. Now he has changed his number and blocked Ava on social media after accusing her of cheating, so this could not be his baby. He ignores all communication offering for him to prove he's not the dad. I've been handling Ava with kid gloves, but here's the situation. I'm a single mom, and Ava is my second child of 3. My older daughter, who's 20 female, lives at home, but works weekends as a barista, and just got a job working 3 hours a week doing QuickBooks for a church, all while studying to be an ultrasound tech. She pays $150 a month in rent, and if she wants new clothes or to go out to eat, that's on her. My youngest son is 10, and it's obviously my responsibility to pay for what my ex's support payments won't cover. However, Ava seems to think that because she technically can qualify as a high school super senior, that she is essentially still a high schooler who can come home and expect that her food, shelter, and new clothes, plus fun expenses are covered, no questions asked. And that the biggest problem with Andrew going silent is the fact that he's a jerk and some college girl has stolen him away. That's not adult thinking, and I'm getting worried that Ava will never get it if I don't spell it out for her. I told her that she either has to show me concrete proof that she's working towards a GED, and then if she passes, some sort of useful certification, in which case I'll let her stay for free, or she needs to get a job. Ask her sister if any restaurants are hiring, if a gym needs a front desk clerk, whatever. She told me she would rather just do high school. I said okay, but either way, employed or not, Andrew is the dad, and just because he's 19 doesn't mean he should get off any easier than a 39-year-old who got his wife pregnant and then left. But Ava got angry, and either Andrew or his siblings got it into her head that if she filed, he would lose his scholarship or be forced out of college, and that the judge would probably say that Andrew cannot make any money in college, so she gets no support. I told her that she does not understand how much diapers and everything else costs, and if she does not file for support, she's about to find out because I'm kicking her out with $100 and that's it. And then if she needs diapers, she can go to the grocery store and see what the total comes to. Am I the jerk? I also printed out flyers about government social programs and taped it to her door. Edit. I'd like to add that my daughter considered not having the baby, but Andrew, whose family is Mormon, said that that was not an option, and that even doing research on the matter would require her to repent. His family is Mormon? The play might be to speak to their church about the upright young man who's abandoning the baby that he fathered out of marriage. That might put more pressure on them to settle. Exactly. I live in a Mormon state, and OMG, if you went to their deacon, I can guarantee you he and his family would be ripped a new one. If they didn't correct the problem, they might even be shunned. I'm in a small town though, so the severity of the consequences will be different, I'm sure. Not the jerk. Your daughter made an adult choice, now she needs to stand up and be an adult. She needs to support her baby one way or another. You aren't, nor should you be a de facto parent for her and her baby daddy. You're offering her very reasonable compromises and solutions here. I'd also have her apply for WIC, food stamps, etc., because once she does, the court will usually, in most states, file for child support for her. It sounds like the father's trying to sweep his responsibilities under the rug and hope that they'll go away. I'm not familiar with the law, but it sounds like your daughter has a good case to claim full custody, which it sounds like she already has, and/or receive child support. The father can't have it both ways. It's not fair for your daughter and you to be solely responsible for the situation that they both equally put themselves in. Your daughter is young, so she may need some guidance. List out what you need her to do, and if they're not met by this date, then she's gotta go. Sounds like the dude's parents may not even know about the baby. You're the jerk. You're considering a plan that escalates too fast. Don't punish her with an eviction for not choosing good decisions. Her baby will just end up being taken from her. Lay out her responsibilities for her and start obligating her to pay for her own kids' expenses. Christmas gift revenge. This was about 23 years ago. My husband was lousy at giving gifts. He would get what he wanted for himself. That year, I came home to a large box wrapped up about 10 days before Christmas, and he said it was for me. He was so excited. Mind you, we've always been pretty broke, so we, or should I say I, always bought for our kids and his greedy family, mother-in-law's demands. We always did without. For some reason, I wasn't that excited about this gift, intuition. Well, Christmas Eve comes and we open gifts. He gets all excited, telling me that I'm going to love this present. I open the box to find a shop vac. We had hardwood and linoleum, so I always swept and mopped and had no need for it. He told me that this is wonderful because it cleans up the garage, his domain, even picks up water, and he said it worked great because he already tried it before wrapping it up. I was upset. He bought it for himself. I would have been happy with a $5 necklace that turned my neck green. That night, I wouldn't even go to bed with him. He comes into the living room where I was laying down, and he told me to come to bed. I told him I wouldn't because I couldn't look at him. He then tells me how I was extremely selfish because gifts were to be what we as a family could use, not what we want. I laid there all night and plotted my revenge. I had to wait for a year, but like they say, best served cold. I kept quiet and told nobody of my plan for revenge. 50 weeks later, I found it. I wasn't even looking for it, but it was staring right at me, as to say, here I am and it's time. It was in a huge box. I quickly purchased the gift, got some wrapping paper for it, and hid it. I didn't want any sneaky peeks. Christmas Eve, while he was at work, I put the present under the tree. Took 2 rolls of cheap wrapping paper and I put some ribbons and a bow on it. It also had a nice weight for it. We started opening gifts, and I wait a bit. Finally, his eyes light up seeing this big box and finding out that it was his. He was so excited, and I told him that this is especially bought for him. He opens the box to find a case of toilet paper. I then quoted him, "Christmas was not for what we want, but what we as a family need or could use. We all need toilet paper." He was furious. He complained to his brothers and everyone. My family and his brothers told him that he deserved the toilet paper. To this day, no husband in my family will ever buy a vacuum cleaner for their wives as gifts. Am I the jerk for disinviting my brother-in-law from Christmas because he keeps telling my son to call me by my first name? My husband has 3 brothers. Charlie and Mike are in their 30s, while Spencer is 5 years old. Spencer is their half-brother from their dad's second marriage. Their father passed shortly after Spencer was born. 2 years ago, Spencer's mother went to prison. My husband and I began fostering him. It didn't take long for him to actually feel like our son. As it was, my husband and Spencer didn't have a very brotherly relationship given the 30-year age gap. He already was more of an uncle. 6 months ago, Spencer's mom lost her parental rights. My husband and I have been working on adopting him. It should be finalized after Christmas. Spencer is so excited. He's been calling us Mama and Daddy for a little over a year now. So this is all official, not changing how we feel in our hearts. Charlie and Mike have been supportive of the whole ordeal from the most part, but we faced a road bump recently. When Spencer began calling us Mama and Daddy, Charlie found it odd. He said that we weren't his parents. I said legally, yes we are. I said he doesn't have to be Uncle Charlie if he doesn't want to be, but we are raising him. Charlie said that we're basically erasing their dad from Spencer's life. I said no, we talk about him and Spencer's biological mom often. This won't be a secret. As it is, Spencer is very smart and is aware that he only came to live with us 2 years ago. Mike and my husband have both told Charlie to let it go. I've noticed, however, that when talking to Spencer, he refers to me and my husband by our first names, or he'll say, "Ask your brother," referring to my husband, or "Go show your sister-in-law," when referring to me. Spencer is confused because he knows my husband is his brother, but he doesn't look at him like that. We've tried talking to him about it, but Charlie claimed it's force of habit. We were trying to let it go, but then one day Charlie corrected Spencer when he called me Mama and said, "No, that's Kate." Spencer got confused and said, "No, that's Mama." Charlie told him that I'm not his mother. This only upset Spencer further. I've had enough, frankly. Spencer is our son. We have him in therapy and have also asked Charlie and Mike to attend family therapy with us. Only Mike has agreed. I told my husband that I don't want Charlie at Christmas. We're hosting. If he's just going to upset Spencer and undermine our place as his parents. My husband said it's completely up to me, so I told Charlie either he stops correcting Spencer or he can't come. Now Charlie is mad and says I'm keeping his brothers from him at Christmas. I said if my husband wants, he can go visit him, and if he wants to see Spencer, he can promise to stop undermining my place. Charlie called me dramatic. Mother-in-law wants all of her boys at Christmas and said that I can put up with it for just one day. She said it's hard for her to be around Spencer, but she does it for us, so I can put up with Charlie and see his side. Am I the jerk? Edit. My husband has been advocating for Spencer and does stand up to his family. It's not just me. Who's hosting this Christmas party? You or mother-in-law? If you're hosting OP, then you can make the guest list and ignore any comments from the peanut gallery. If mother-in-law wants to spend time with Charlie, she may certainly do so, but she may do it elsewhere. Charlie needs to learn to keep his mouth shut. What your son calls you is not up to him, and it's none of his business. If Charlie doesn't behave, Charlie can't come to the party. It's that simple, not the jerk. Well, then she can host at her house. Your kid, your rules. If Charlie doesn't like it, then these are the consequences of his actions. He's the adult and needs to learn to act like one. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for not giving up a table? I took my kids out to the mall the other day. My husband took the car to work, so my brother dropped us off and my husband was going to pick us up. We were there for a couple of hours and the kids had loads of fun, but they're 5 and 3 and were exhausted by the time my husband had to pick us up. I was also extremely tired. I ordered them some fries and then we sat at one of the tables in the food court. After a bit, I gave my eldest my phone to watch something while my younger one was napping in my arms. My husband was stuck in traffic, so he was going to be late by an hour, so yeah. When we first sat down, the food court was pretty empty, but it filled up fast. A young woman and her mother approached us and asked if we were done with the table. I apologized and said no. The younger lady got annoyed and said we clearly aren't eating anything and that I've been sitting at the table doing nothing for 20 minutes now. I apologized and said she could ask someone else. She then started to guilt trip me about her mother being old and tired and how my kids and I are still young, so we should be able to give up our table. I said I'm sorry, but there's nothing you could say to make me move. Please ask someone else. She then got closer and started yelling about how disrespectful and rude I'm being towards her sick mother. It was very loud and other people started looking. My oldest got scared and my younger one, who was napping, woke up upset. I immediately asked her to be quiet as she's scaring my kids. She rolled her eyes at me and said my kids are in public and aren't entitled to quiet. I just said you and your mother aren't entitled to a table either. She then got mad and said it's entirely different, but a security guard approached us. We explained what happened and he told her that she was causing a scene and she left after calling me rude and entitled. The security guard then told me that I should have just given up my table, but it's none of his business, and walked away. My husband said I did good, but his coworker that was with him privately told me I couldn't have been that tired and that if I'm in public, I should have some awareness. He said older people need to sit down more than kids do, and definitely more than I do. Am I the jerk? Edit. No, the young lady and her mother did not have food with them. The table I was sitting at was just one small table and 2 chairs. My oldest on one seat, me and my youngest on the other. I've also been to this mall countless times for years now, and no one has ever been told to leave a table unless it's closing time. It's a popular hangout spot for teens as well. No, you had every right to stay at that table for as long as you needed to. You were a customer of the mall and food court. You purchased food, you sat down and ate. Unless there's a posted policy in the food court, you could have camped out there all day long. That woman was rude and used to getting her way. I'm so very glad you denied them. Not the jerk. Karen demands I put my dog outside on Christmas. I, 22 female, have a big cane corso, 130 pounds. Last year, I left him with some trusted friends to visit my family for 2 days. I hated it and asked my parents to let me visit with him next year. They agreed. They got a dog over this summer, and I thought nothing of it. Yesterday, however, I got a call from my stepmom saying that their little 15-pound mix has bitten 3 people and is extremely and irrationally dog aggressive. They never socialized her or took her to a trainer because she's tiny and harmless. I said I can take my crate and keep Dude, my dog, there or have them switch out with theirs, but she said that she needs Dude to be outside. I got upset and said no. Their yard is well fenced in and there is a small shed with heating out there, but I'm not a fan. It's 5 days of him in the cold, alone and outside. He's a house dog. He's never been and never will be an outside dog. There are no pet hotels or friends to turn to so close to Christmas. I tried making compromises, like keeping Dude in one room and just taking him out for walks, but she's refusing. She says it will upset their dog too much. I finally told her that if there's no way we can have Dude somewhere in the house, I can't go. Everyone is mad at me now, and my sister and cousin texted me saying I'm being overly dramatic. Dude is a protection breed, and a lot of them are actually kept in the yard as guardians. I understand that, but mine was never meant to be a backyard dog. I'd understand if it was summer and all, but I can't put him out in the dead of winter with temperatures below freezing. Am I the jerk for saying I won't go and for causing a scene? Not the jerk. She's tiny and harmless, and yet she bites people? And they want to have a house full of other people around her? That's just a disaster waiting to happen. Not the jerk. You offered several options. They clearly have never boarded a dog if they think you can find a facility now. Most places are booked for Christmas by the end of July. I'd skip it, and that's on them. OP. I called around, and only one place has availability, but they want $280 a night, which is insane. Plus, their reviews are horrible. Everything is solid booked, and they even have a list of people waiting in case of an opening. Am I the jerk for accidentally insulting my future daughter-in-law's infertility? I'm 64, and I have one son, Robert, with my late husband, James. Robert is engaged to Sarah, who is also 35. Last Sunday, Sarah and Robert came to my house for dinner. We were chatting, and I told them a story about James, who Sarah unfortunately never got to meet. While I was pregnant, James was very excited and insisted on putting together everything, cribs and changing tables, etc. Bless him, but my James was not much of a carpenter, and one day when I was putting Robert in his crib, the whole thing broke. I managed to catch Robert in time, so no harm done, thankfully. After the story, I made a joke along the lines of Sarah never having that problem if they have kids, because Robert actually is a carpenter. She burst into tears and asked me why I was being so cruel. I was taken aback and asked her what was wrong, as I certainly hadn't meant to upset her, and I was sorry if I had. She told me they discovered recently that Sarah is infertile and she would never be able to have kids, even with IVF. I apologized profusely and said if I had known, I would never have made a joke about it. James and I struggled with having Robert, and we were never able to give him siblings, so I felt awful that I had hurt Sarah like that. The mood was ruined after that, and Robert and Sarah decided to leave early. On Tuesday, I ran into Robert's best friend and his wife while I was out shopping. His wife is good friends with Sarah and seemed unusually cold towards me. I asked why, and she said she hadn't known I was so rude and that I should be ashamed of mocking Sarah's infertility. It turns out that the story had been spread that I viciously insulted Sarah and insinuated she shouldn't marry Robert. The story even got back to our family, and a lot of our relatives are quite upset with me. I apologized when I made the joke, but now I'm wondering if I really did overstep that badly and insult Sarah horribly. I don't want to be a bad mother-in-law, and I get along quite well with Sarah ordinarily. Am I the jerk here? Edit. I decided to answer some questions. 1. I haven't spoken to Robert about the story spreading the way it did. I thought it was best to give them space after the dinner to process Sarah's diagnosis, but a lot of commenters are saying I should ask him about it, and I think you may be right. 2. I haven't discussed future kids with her before, as my own mother-in-law was quite cruel to myself and James, especially me, since we only had Robert. James' siblings all have quite large families, and my mother-in-law was very clear about who she blamed for our lack of kids. I decided early on in Sarah and Robert's relationship that I wouldn't ask the typical questions of when would they be having kids, but I have only met Sarah's family once, so I don't know if her own relatives pressure her the way that my mother-in-law pressured me. 3. Sarah is a very lovely woman, and we have never had a big problem together before. Many commenters have said frankly rude things about her, which wasn't my intention when posting here. I know Robert has always wanted a big family, and he wouldn't have asked Sarah to marry him if they weren't on the same page about that. So Sarah is likely going through an enormous amount of grief at the moment. Do be kind to her, please. 4. I've also decided to reach out to Sarah and ask if the two of us can talk. I think the story spreading was really a case of telephone, but I would like to clear the air. Following that, I'm going to ask the both of them over for a chat and to discuss the situation, as I don't want this to fester. I haven't decided what I'm going to do about clearing everything up with the family, but it's not my main concern. Robert and Sarah are. I would like to thank everyone for their comments, as they were mostly all lovely and kind. The situation truly upset me, and a lot of you had very good advice, so thank you all. You made a joke about your late husband's carpentry skills, not your daughter-in-law's infertility, as you were completely unaware of their situation. That Sarah has chosen to make you a villain to everyone who will listen says more about her than it does you. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Since you had no clue your future daughter-in-law was infertile, the comment was completely innocent. Your future daughter-in-law spreading lies about you to friends and family is definitely a jerk move. Have you tried speaking to your son about this situation? Karen demands my emerald ring. I'm 48 female, and my eldest is 22 male. He's been with his fiancée, my daughter-in-law, since they were 20, and he wants to marry her now. I'd always liked her before now. She's a smart girl, and she fits in well with our family. She's driven, and she makes my son happy. Everything was all roses until they got engaged. Now, since I was little, I've been fascinated with jewelry. When I was older and married, had my own income, I started to collect rings. I would design them myself. I used to ask friends and family to give me cash that I could put towards them and save up my disposable income towards whatever ring I wanted. Edit. Okay, apparently this is controversial, but it's always been the custom of my family to give cash during celebrations. It's also very normal in my community to ask your friends to give cash. I've done this myself for plenty of my friends. However, the majority of the cost of each piece of jewelry was always borne by me. Whatever I got from birthdays was a bonus top-up, not something I relied on to be able to afford it. It would be less than 10% of each piece, definitely not the bulk. Sorry, but a few commenters were derailed by this. I wasn't buying one every year, but over time, I've built a nice collection of rings. My favorite are sapphire with halo of diamonds, an emerald in a trilogy with 1-carat diamonds, either side, and one with a ruby set in it. After my son got engaged and we invited him and his daughter-in-law to have dinner at our house, daughter-in-law started to speak to me. She said she's been seeing my emerald ring over the years, and she's always wanted one herself. She pointed out that I wear this one the least often, which is true, and demanded that I gift it to her as an heirloom engagement ring. This is in addition to other wedding gifts and expenses we had discussed as a family during dinner. This includes gold to the value of approximately 6,000 pounds, which is honestly more than my entire wedding cost, and which I still think is a significant amount. This rubbed me the wrong way, and I admit I accused her of trying to pick through my estate before I'm even gone. I told her the ring is mine, and I can sell it on my deathbed if I want to. She has no right to expect it, and she's being a rude brat by demanding it. She yelled at me that something like this just can't be sold. It should be an heirloom, and it's normal for heirlooms to be passed on while the wearer is still alive. I told her to leave if she was just in my home to demand my property, and she stormed out, taking my son with her. She's mad at me, and my son says I should have just passed the ring on to her since I have others, and it would be a nice gesture to welcome her into the family. He says it's no different than his sister occasionally borrowing some of my pieces. My husband and my daughter are on my side, but this is the first time my son has shut me out like this. So, am I the jerk? Edit. Daughter-in-law already has an engagement ring. It's beautiful, and I would call it expensive. This is not a case of her being proposed to without a ring. Not the jerk. Your daughter-in-law is quite the entitled gold or emerald digger. If she wanted it to be an engagement ring, the proper thing would have been for your son to discuss it with you. Her asking for it is shocking and rude. It's not an heirloom if you're the first owner in the family. Heirlooms tend to have generations behind them, and they are not necessarily given away during the owner's lifetime. Many family mementos are distributed as part of an estate after the owner is gone. Don't loan anything to her or you will never see it again. Well, what do you think? Should OP give the ring to her daughter-in-law or not? Please let us know. If my fiance demanded my mom's ring, I'd drop them like a bad habit. Am I the jerk for insulting the food my wife made, despite not knowing that she made it? I'll try to keep this short. My wife and I are 46 and 47. We've been married for 19 years, and not once in our marriage has she ever cooked. I honestly never minded. She told me that she's a terrible cook, and I like to do it anyway. Yesterday, I had a long day at work, and I told my wife this. She told me she would order food in so I didn't have to cook. I come home and she sets the table. The food is neatly placed on 2 plates, which should have been my first clue that it was home-cooked, and I began to dig in. The food was bland, borderline gross, and nothing to what I had tasted before. My head was already pounding. I was not in the mood for some crappy food. I just looked up from the food and told her, "This food sucks. Please don't ever order from this place again." She got really quiet and then sad. I asked her if everything was okay, and she said yes. She still seemed off the whole dinner. After dinner, I wouldn't stop bothering her, wouldn't stop asking her what's wrong, until she finally snapped and told me that she cooked the food. It wasn't ordered. She said she was sorry and she won't cook for me again, and I could see her tearing up. She went right to bed. I had to leave early the next day, so she was asleep. I asked a buddy of mine for advice, and he said I shouldn't have talked about anybody's food that way. Am I the jerk, or was this just an honest mistake? Edit for clarification. I did not mean this in a hateful way at all. My wife and I have lived in the same area our entire marriage and very often come across an absolutely terrible takeout place. It's a thing we do, saying, "Oh, this sucks." Usually the response is a laugh because we have a tally of the horrible places and we find it funny. My fault for not specifying that. Edit. And for those of you talking bad about my wife because she doesn't like to cook, you're out of line. So what if she doesn't want to cook? She doesn't like it. I do, so I do it. She can learn how to if she wants to, but she doesn't have the enthusiasm. If she really needs to, she'll learn. She can do whatever she wants because she helps doing other things that I wouldn't like to do. Comment about whatever you want. but going after her for not cooking is so pathetic. Last update. I got home yesterday with flowers and a bottle of wine. I set her down and told her the food wasn't restaurant quality, but I thought it was great for a beginner. She said she'd like to learn a little bit of basic cooking, so I'm going to teach her for whatever she wants to cook. She laughed about it a little, about how bad the food was. Thank you for all of the advice. I'm 19, female. My boyfriend, who's 22, is very excited about a party that I'm not invited to. We've been together for about 1 year, and he's amazing. We've had arguments here and there, but nothing too serious except for this one. Last week, he got invited to a college party and I wasn't, to which I don't really mind. The problem is, he was invited by one of the sorority girls who's made it clear that she has a crush on him on her social media. He plays football. She even has a highlight on her Instagram tagged "My Crush" with his pictures. My boyfriend told me there's nothing to worry about because he's only interested in me. He said she's delusional to think there could be something between them. The party is on Friday and he's been very excited about it. He already prepared what he was going to wear yesterday. He bought new shoes and designer clothes. Normally he doesn't even care about that kind of stuff. He's always showing me the party group chat, telling me how amazing everything is planned out. As he was showing me, he got an Instagram message from this sorority girl saying, "We should try it then." He swiftly swiped it away and acted like it was nothing. When I asked him what she meant, he said that she wants to learn how to throw a football. All right. I also overheard him talking with his best friend about how amazing it's going to be. Honestly, I feel like this excited him even more than our anniversary, and it's hurting me. I asked him if I can join him too, and he told me it's an invite-only party, so I can't come with him. Well, someone else will be doing that from the sounds of it. I need advice on what to do because I feel so overwhelmed and I'm probably not thinking straight at the moment. What should I do? Update. Hey everyone, thank you for opening my eyes. I didn't want to think the worst about my ex-boyfriend, but y'all were right. After making this post, I had a lot to think about and evaluate from the comments I received. Some were harsh to read, but I had to. I spent the next few hours crying alone in my apartment. For a very long time, I've avoided the idea of snooping through his phone, but on Thursday night, I did, and I found some very disturbing things. I went through his messages and took relevant screenshots of him talking to his sorority friend, but what I did not expect to find were the things I saw in his Discord. That's why I could not make an update earlier. He mentioned that I'm his girlfriend to her and said that he would leave me if she was up for it. He sent her flowers every Monday of the week since they started talking. Guess what? He's only bought me flowers twice in about a year. I feel so upset, and I probably need therapy to get through this. I no longer feel sad about him and the sorority girl. She can have him. Am I the jerk for ruining my sister-in-law's birthday dinner because she encouraged her kids to pull a prank? My husband and I, 38 female, went to my sister-in-law's house for her birthday. It's quite a long drive, so we drove up the day before and stayed overnight in their spare room. The birthday meal was going to be midday. She has 2 kids who are 4 and 7. Husband and I went in separate cars as we were coming from different workplaces to get there. I'm very short-sighted and literally can't see 1 foot in front of my face without my glasses. Every night I take them off and put them on the nightstand right where I know I can reach them in the morning. Now, apparently, sister-in-law thought it would be a funny prank to get her kids to sneak into my room. I sleep with earplugs in because husband is a loud snorer, and take and hide my glasses. On the morning of her birthday, I couldn't find my glasses on the nightstand. I had to ask my husband to help in case they had fallen off and under the bed or something, but we couldn't find them anywhere. I was really distraught because, as I said, I'm literally almost non-functional without them. Husband helped me down to breakfast, and I explained that I wouldn't be able to take part in the meal today at a nearby restaurant, and I couldn't drive myself home. I was really upset. They're also expensive glasses because I have to get the lens thinned, etc. So about 600 pounds. Sister-in-law let this go on until they were all ready to leave for her birthday lunch. I had not been able to do much all day up to this point because I couldn't see. Then she jokingly said to her kids, "Okay, that's enough, I think. Go get them." And the kids ran off to fetch my glasses from where they had hidden them. She said not to blame them at all. I don't. And it was her idea and just a bit of harmless fun. I put my glasses on, got in my car, said nothing at all, and just drove home. My husband is on my side and has apologized in sister-in-law's behalf, saying that she thought I would see the funny side. He's very apologetic and offered to skip her birthday meal as well and come home. But he's the one being apologetic, not her. I've had nothing from sister-in-law except an angry WhatsApp message to the group. Not directly to me, but to the family group, saying that her birthday had been ruined because someone couldn't take a joke. Apparently, after I left, she had a meltdown about how the day was ruined because I drove off and the kids are upset. It's genuinely distressing for me to not be able to see, but I see how she might have been able to think it was funny to get her kids to do this. Am I the jerk? Edit. I feel bad that the kids think that they're the reason I was upset or what they did was wrong. Extra edit to say this is the main reason I feel like the jerk for this. My reaction of just walking out didn't give the kids any explanation, so they think they did something wrong, which they did, to be fair, but with encouragement. Not the jerk. I don't see how this prank is supposed to be funny, but maybe if she let this go on for 10 minutes, some would see the humor in it. But to let it go on for seemingly hours is ridiculous. And then to top it off, she didn't even apologize. It also seems strange to get the kids involved. If it was their idea, it would be one thing, but she recruited them to play a prank that wasn't even funny. This is a case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. OP. She still seems to feel it was amusing for me to stumble around all morning, also in a panic. And yes, you're correct, it was for hours. We got up at 8 a.m., lunch was scheduled for 2 p.m. I stumbled around trying to find my glasses for about 5 hours before she told the kids to go get them. OP, are you sure your husband wasn't in on the prank? I mean, it was pretty obvious someone stole your glasses when they were not quickly found in the room where you left them. My husband would have torn sister-in-law's house apart looking for my glasses rather than letting me sit there blind and incapacitated for 6 hours. Maybe that has something to do with why he is apologizing and not her. Am I the jerk for not accepting and returning the birthday present my half-sister gave my son? I'm 27, female. My parents got divorced when my brother and I were around 6 because dad had a mistress and another kid, our half-sister who's 25. On the day my parents finalized their divorce and my dad received full custody, both she and her mom came to live with us. Suffice to say, we didn't like either of them. When she was a kid, she didn't understand why we didn't want to spend time together, and she would complain to our dad about us, and then he would punish us. This added to our hatred. Growing up, she was his precious child, and he would celebrate her birthdays and her milestones while ignoring ours. He always catered to her wants and desires, but never bothered to learn about ours. Any of her wrongdoings would be easily forgiven, but if my brother and I made any mistakes, like dropping the TV remote, he'd flip out on us. Despite belonging to a wealthy family, my brother and I struggled financially, and we couldn't even apply for scholarships. After all this and more, when we became mature enough, we moved away and had no contact with any of them. I thought that we'd never meet again, or so I thought. Unfortunately, the universe played me a fool, and I met her at my in-laws' family's dinner. She was currently dating my husband's brother, and he brought her over to introduce her to his family for the first time. I was in disbelief, and I wanted to ignore her, but she saw me and happily had a reunion with me. She told them that we were friends. Fast forward to the present day. They're now engaged. I have a 1-year-old son, and except for my husband and his brother, no one from their family knows that we are half-sisters. Recently, we celebrated our son's birthday, and we held a small party with just our friends and family. Brother-in-law came to the party, she didn't, but when we were going through the presents my son received, I saw a gift with her name on it. It was addressed as Aunt Blank to my son, and it made me feel uncomfortable. I told my husband that I'd return it and I don't want anything from her in my son's life. He was reluctant, but he supported me, so I did. Later, when she received the return package, she called me and asked why, and I told her my reasons. She said that I was being immature by denying a gift meant for someone else, and she gave it to him as his uncle's fiancé. While my husband agrees that I shouldn't have returned the gift given in goodwill, I haven't done anything wrong. But according to my brother, I'm being a jerk to someone who has respected my wishes and remained distant. Am I the jerk for returning her present? Not the jerk, but you really should sit down with her and work out how things are going to go. Like it or not, she's part of your family now. So, I didn't read anything that she did to deserve this behavior from you. I have a half-sister, and she's my mother's golden child. I've watched this kid go on trips all around the world, get her wants and needs met, etc. And do I hate her or treat her differently? No. It's my mother's doing, not my sister's. And even though I have a little bit of jealousy and I think it's unfair, do I then treat my sister in a bad manner? I don't. Even though a part of me grieves for the younger version of me, I'm thankful that my sister gets to do things I didn't because she's family. You need to take a hard look at yourself and be mad at your dad. You're mad at the wrong person. I mean this in a nice way. You need to grow up. Carrying all that bitterness around is going to come back to you tenfold. Everything you mentioned were things that your dad did, and you didn't mention anything that she did to make your life a problem. Did she actually do anything besides being born? If your half-sister gets married to your brother-in-law, she will be in your life in some way no matter what. She's going to be part of your extended family. Your actions are going to create problems for your husband and extended family. You're going to create rifts between you and your husband's side, and this isn't smart. You're the jerk. My fiance has invited his best friend on his family vacation instead of me. I'm really struggling with trying to understand the situation, and I would appreciate some insight outside of my immediate friends and family. Just for some backstory, I met my fiance, we'll call him D, at the tail end of my freshman year in college. We were friends for a couple of months before finally admitting that we had feelings for each other, and we've been inseparable ever since. He's known his girl best friend, S, since his early years of high school. D introduced me to S early on in the relationship, as she has also attended the same university as us. I always trusted D, so I never had a problem with their friendship. I have platonic male friends that I still keep in close contact with, so having an issue with it would be hypocritical in my eyes. I even developed a friendship with S over the years of us knowing each other, so getting to understand her on a personal level has also made me feel more secure in their closeness. I got engaged to D this summer after years of dating, and I personally believed we had a wonderful and deep love. We typically have very healthy communication, and even if we do not see eye to eye on things, we tend to come to a good middle ground eventually. Fast forward to now. His family typically does a vacation every spring break. The past few years, I have not been invited because only close friends or spouses are allowed to join in. Now, I admittedly have felt a tad bit hurt by this in the past, but I always let it go because it's not my family vacation, and I assumed he had no say in who could attend, unless they met the requirements. So you can probably imagine how excited I was, thinking that perhaps I could tag along this year, to spend some time getting to know his family much better and getting to spend some extra time with him that isn't in the apartment or the city we live in. Friday night, when he came home from work, he started to casually bring up how his family picked a certain beautiful East Coast beach as their destination for this year's family vacation, which, by the way, got me so excited because I thought he was working his way into inviting me. Rather, though, he mentioned that this year he was bringing S along to his family vacation. I think he could see the confusion and devastation on my face because he immediately started saying that he wanted to bring me, but his family has known S for much longer than they've known me, and that they love her, so they don't mind paying for her to go on vacation with them. S has also had a tough year with her grandfather passing, so he wants to take her on a trip to make her feel better and get her mind off of things. I was genuinely so shocked and so hurt that I excused myself to the bedroom, locked the door, and sobbed my eyes out. The next morning, D came and spoke to me, saying he was sorry, but that this vacation probably won't be that fun anyways, since his teen cousins are coming too, and that he would make it up to me by taking me out on a weekend trip sometime during the summer. I tried to explain to him that it hurts me that he's putting another woman above me, his fiancée, even if it's for a not fun family vacation. I've never been able to attend one of them before, and finally, just when I think I'm about to be included, I'm not. The vacation will be a week long, and I'm already starting to feel insecure that he has picked another woman to go on a tropical family vacation with. I truly can understand how he wants to be a good friend and be there for his best friend while she's grieving a loss, but also at the same time, I could never imagine inviting one of my guy friends on a family vacation over my fiancé. It perplexes me, I suppose. I'm so confused on what to do or how to handle this situation. I want to respect his decision because I can appreciate that he can love and cherish another woman platonically, but at the same time, I feel so betrayed that while he is on his family vacation with another woman, I will presumably be sitting at home feeling left out. I've also been battling the urge to look through his messages with her. I don't want to invade his privacy, but I can't help but begin to think that if you invite another woman on a vacation with you, there's probably more than just friendship in the pot. I don't really know how to bring any of this up to him without sounding like I'm jealous or clingy, and quite frankly, I'm not even sure if I should be upset. Should I be concerned that he invited her over me, or do y'all think I'm overreacting? Oh no, this would be an absolute deal breaker for me. You're his fiance. You are part of the family. If his family does not accept you, then that's a problem he needs to address, not just switch you out for someone that they like more. How are they going to get to know you if you're not invited to things that would actually help them get to know you? If he wanted to invite both of you because she's had a hard time, then fine. She can come along as a family friend, but you should not be excluded. By saying you are not invited to a family vacation but she is, he's being very clear that you are not family but she is. You are not his family. I couldn't continue knowing that. To me, the problem is less that she's going, it's the fact that you've never been invited at all, and I'm assuming you've been together for at least 2 years. It's not really a family vacation if they want to invite anyone they deem a close friend. The problem is, 1, your partner's parents do not want you there, and 2, your partner is okay with that, even after you've gotten engaged. Obviously, it's one thing to expect them to pay for you to go, but you aren't invited, period. I'd look at his texts with her. It's extremely strange that he's not putting his foot down with his family about bringing you instead of her. I would also rethink getting married to someone who puts their friends before you. I have more guy friends for whatever reason. I've always gotten along with them better, but I would have never done this to my husband. My son said something to my babysitter, and it emotionally destroyed me. I, 26 female, am raising 2 kids all on my own. My kids are fed, clothed, clean, they go to daycare and have everything that they need. But my babysitter told me something that has really dragged me down. I work full-time, clean, cook, grocery shop, take care of the kids, etc., all on my own. I have no time for myself, and what little time I do have, I try to spend it with the kids. However, lately I've been very worn down. By the time I get my kids from their after daycare babysitter at 5 p.m., I'm already mentally drained. Then, as soon as I step foot into my apartment, I have to start getting the kids ready for dinner, then bed if I want them to wake up refreshed for the day. I wake up to them fighting over everything. Toys, blankets, my phone, everything. I have to change their diapers, brush their teeth, feed them breakfast, and then get them on the bus by 7:45 a.m. From there, I have 45 minutes to pick up the house, get dressed, eat something, enjoy a cup of coffee, then go straight to work. I spend all day at work being yelled at by ungrateful people over $5 fees when they have over $500,000 in their accounts. Go home and do the same thing all over again. My son, who's 4, has been asking me to read to him a lot, but by the time I sit down, I'm so tired from my day, I can't keep my eyes open. I can tell this disappoints him, and it hurts me every time I tell him no. But I'm only one person, and I can only do so much. My kids constantly hang on to me, grabbing at my arms, legs, hair, and feet. They're always asking me for things they know how to do on their own, like getting a toy 2 inches from their hand. My daughter, who's 2, is always crying. You can look at her and she cries. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I love my kids and I would do anything for them, but I'm tired. I have no help. My mom is sick and doesn't help much even when she's feeling well. My dad just drinks too much and is no help at all. My son's father lives in Texas and only recently started talking to me again. However, it's almost never about his son. My daughter's father, anytime I try to reach out to him, it's all about his problems and how bad things have gotten for him. I have my daughter's side of the family, but I don't want to ask too much of them. They all have their own lives and can get stressed out if I ask too much of them. The other day, my babysitter told me that my son wishes I would read more to him. It's torn my heart out to know how I'm making him feel that way. And my daughter, although she can't express it yet, how I know the disappointment she feels when I ask her to stop grabbing me and to give me some space. I feel like a failure to my kids. Every day I wake up knowing what the day brings and knowing that by the end of it, I'll be crying myself to sleep knowing I didn't do enough. Knowing I didn't have the time once again to read to my babies. Knowing I was too physically uncomfortable being grabbed at the moment by them because they want to cuddle. Knowing that every time my daughter cries, I want to cry myself because of how overwhelmed I feel. I don't know what to do. There's just not enough time in the day for everything, and I know my kids are the ones suffering for it. You are anything besides a failure. You're balancing everything pretty well. You're providing for both of your kids, and they're fed and clean and sheltered. If anything, you're doing everything a good parent does. I know you want to be able to read to your son, but you have a lot going on. Do you get any days off? Maybe you could read to your son then. He might not understand it now, but he will, and so will your daughter one day. Keep your head up. This difficult time will not last forever. You're doing a great job, and one day your kids will see that clearly. Please do try to be kind to yourself. You're doing the best you can. Take care. I hope things work out for you, but this is why having 2 kids with 2 different men you're not married to is not a good idea. I waited until I was 28 years old and married to a good man before we started having babies. We are a traditional family. I don't go through any of these issues you're describing because I made the right choices. It is not okay to bring kids into the world with the wrong people and when they won't grow up with a good family. I hope and pray that more people start waiting until they marry a good spouse to have kids with. But unfortunately, that's not the cool thing to do these days. And instead, they just want to have fun with the wrong kinds of people who you will not be able to count on. I met my husband at church, and he's been such an amazing man. Is he a 6'2" bad boy with a motorcycle and tattoos? No, absolutely not. But he is everything I could want and more. Please stop having kids with the wrong people. If you're not worth marrying to him, he won't make a good father, and you're setting yourself up for a life of struggle. Grumpy father-in-law gets more mugs than he can handle. Background: I'm 32, female. My father-in-law, who's 67, is a stereotypical grumpy old man. My husband, who's 33, says that his father wasn't always like this, but the years have turned him sour. My father-in-law is always complaining about something, constantly going on political tangents, always inserting his opinion even if he isn't involved in the conversation, and constantly whining that my husband and I never make time for him despite having him over for dinner every other week. My husband tolerates but doesn't entertain his grumpiness. I handle it like I would an incoherent toddler and just reply, "Wow, what an interesting thing to say," and then move along the conversation as if he weren't there. Recently, my husband and I completely reorganized our kitchen. As most people do, we had far too many coffee mugs. We decided to get rid of half of them, about 17, so we put them in a box and set them aside to be donated. That evening, father-in-law came over for dinner and noticed the box of mugs by the front door. When he asked about it, we just said we had too many and needed to get rid of some. He immediately started rambling about how wasteful our generation was, how we use something for 30 seconds and then throw it away, how his generation would always use an item until it fell apart and then they would mend the item and keep on using it. He finished it off by saying someone his age would never consider discarding perfectly good items like that. I just responded with, "Okay," and continued on getting dinner ready without addressing it further. Well, this last weekend, we had our Christmas celebration with my father's family. We celebrated early due to multiple family members going out of state for Christmas. We enjoyed our evening despite a few grumblings from my father-in-law. Toward the end of the night, we all exchanged gifts. That was when my father-in-law opened a big box of 17 used coffee mugs. He looked at my husband with a confused look on his face, so my husband said, "You were so vocal that we shouldn't get rid of perfectly good mugs, so we decided to gift them to you since you clearly wanted them." My father-in-law started making excuses about how he didn't need that many and how he already has mugs and doesn't have the space to keep them. My husband just shrugged and said, "I'm sure you'll find something to do with them. Your generation is very resourceful." It's only been 2 days since he got his new coffee mug collection, but he's called my husband and me 7 times trying to convince us to take them back. All I've said was, "It would be wasteful for us to take them back. Thank you so much for saving the perfectly good mugs." Karen and her fiance stole my business idea. I, 28 female, find myself in a really tough spot and I need some honest opinions on what I should do. My sister, who's 25, is getting married soon and the entire family is ecstatic, but not me. Her fiance, who's 30, stole a business idea from me a few years back and I'm seriously considering skipping the wedding because of it. Backstory: I'd been working on a unique business concept for a few years and I told my sister about it. I thought we were close. Fast forward a bit, and lo and behold, her fiance launches the same darn business, basically stealing my idea and profiting off of it. This scheme is what is funding most of their wedding, FYI. I confronted them about it, and they played dumb, acting like it was just a coincidence, and they had no idea. I was furious, hurt, and betrayed, but for the sake of the family, I decided not to press the issue any further. Now the wedding is approaching, and my parents are pressuring me to attend after I mention to them that I want to skip it. They argue that family comes first, and I should set aside my grievances for the sake of my sister's big day. On the other hand, I feel like attending would be a slap in the face, as I feel it would signal that what they did is forgivable and that I'm okay with being walked all over. So, am I the jerk for wanting to skip my sister's wedding over this? Should I put aside my feelings and just be there for her? Or is it fair of me to take a stand against what feels like a major betrayal? I'm torn. Info. A few of you really wanted to know what the business idea was. I can't go into detail as it's pretty niche and it would be easy to look up and find out a bit too much personal info on my brother-in-law. I can tell you though that it was an app idea. It's identical to the idea that I was working on. Also, some people are defending brother-in-law by saying that I wasn't going to go through with it. I had been taking part-time entrepreneurship classes at a local college, and I was teaching myself how to build an app at the time. I told my sister about it and showed her what I was working on. He stole the idea before I had the chance to go through with it and sold it to his buds. Now he co-owns it. I think it's also important to note that I dabble in photography, and from conversations with my parents, it sounds like my sister wants me to be the photographer for her wedding, but I haven't heard anything about her paying me for it. So by not going, not only would I be causing a bit of drama, I'd also be leaving them without a photographer according to my mom. I never even agreed to photograph. This was apparently assumed by my sister. OP, tell your mother that if family comes first, then why did your sister and her fiancé steal your business idea? It seems your sister has a unique idea on how to deal with family. Not the jerk. If you're 100% sure that the idea was so unique to you and he definitely stole it from you, not only would I not attend the wedding, I'd completely cut the sister off too for sharing your idea with him. That might be a bit extreme for some people, but I've had a similar thing happen to my girlfriend. My girlfriend says I need to get rid of my late wife's stuff or she's leaving me. I first got married at the age of 18 to my girlfriend I'd known since we were 15. We enjoyed 6 years of marriage together before she passed in an accident, leaving me broken and depressed for years. A bit over 1 year ago, 4 years after my wife's passing, I met my current girlfriend at a work event and we really hit it off. I decided that it was time for me to start looking for a serious partner again and that my wife would have wanted me to be happy. My current girlfriend and I became more serious over time and we moved in together 2 weeks ago. I've talked with her extensively about my deceased wife and the mental health issues that it brought to me, and she's been nothing but supportive and loving. The problems began after we moved in together. I have a small chest that I used to keep under my bed that has a few things that belong to my late wife, along with some photos of the two of us. During the moving process, my girlfriend noticed the chest and asked me about it, so I explained what it was and I showed her the contents. I didn't really expect for it to be a big deal, but since I showed her, things have never been worse between us. She sat me down that night and explained that because I still had the chest and wanted to keep it, it was an indication to her that I hadn't moved on from my deceased wife and that she doesn't think she can continue the relationship unless I get rid of it. I was pretty shocked at this and told her that I needed some time to think about it. Well, it's been 2 weeks now and I still don't know what to do. My current girlfriend and I have had no major problems up until this point, and she's asking me daily when I plan to get rid of it and says she can't live in the same space as the chest. I really don't want to get rid of it, but I want to continue my relationship with her as well. What can I say to get her to understand? Or am I being crazy by keeping those things for years? Update. Some people were wondering how often I look at the chest and talk about my late wife. I spend prolonged time with the chest and its contents usually twice a year, on our anniversary date and the date of her passing. So I'm not constantly opening it and having it out and around and stuff. I feel as though I find the most comfort just knowing that it's nearby, strangely enough, which is why I wanted to keep it in the house. Most of the conversations about my previous marriage have been prompted by my girlfriend, not me. I can talk about it pretty openly when asked about my late wife, but I seldom bring her up on my own in conversation. She used to be all I ever talked about, and it was annoying and uncomfortable to people in my life. Looking back on a lot of our conversations, my girlfriend would frequently ask questions trying to gauge if I was still mourning or if I was happy again. Now with the chest incident, that makes sense to me that it has been an unvoiced insecurity for a while. At the time, I suppose I just thought she was asking if I was depressed still, but I see now that she was trying to ask if I was over my late wife. When my girlfriend asked me to get rid of the chest, she did in fact mean dispose of it. I didn't go into great detail about the conversation we had when she sat me down, but I proposed keeping it more tucked away, not in our bedroom or at another person's home, and she continued to say that I was still hanging on and not ready for a relationship in her eyes, and keeping it somewhere else didn't change that. I'm definitely not getting rid of the chest, and by that I mean disposing of it, and it's been locked in my car the past couple of days while I've been dealing with this. I got some really good advice from you guys and tried to have an open, honest conversation with her today, asking her why the chest was so significant as to give me an ultimatum, and why she felt like I had to get rid of it to continue growing our relationship. She said the entire relationship we've had, she's always felt like she had to match up to the standards of my late wife, or be even better so that I would stay with her, and that me still having the chest was the confirmation that she will always be less than. If I got rid of the chest, it would be confirmation that I was ready to give my whole heart to her. This broke my heart, honestly, and I couldn't believe she never told me she was feeling this way and that I didn't see it. It also made me feel confused because I've been trying to show her the best I can that I can give her my heart in other ways. Why do I need to dump these precious memories to do that? I told her that the relationship with my late wife and my relationship with her are entirely independent of one another, and that I was focused on building trust and love with her, not trying to replace my late wife or compare her by any means. I told her that I couldn't dispose of the chest because it meant a lot to me sentimentally, and that I wasn't keeping it to hang on to or cling on to my late wife. I just felt as though it was an important part of my history, and I wanted to honor her memory. Some of the trinkets in the chest were from when we were 16 years old, going to high school dances and learning how to drive together. I couldn't simply trash those. I reassured her that I loved her for exactly who she was, not the position she held in my life or how similar she was to my late wife. I told her that I could see us building a life together and that I was focused on our future, not my past. I told her that there is absolutely no competition and that while I was hurt by the ultimatum, I was ready to move past this and move the chest to storage or somewhere else. It wasn't enough for her. I don't know what else I needed to say or do to communicate my love and dedication, but she was dead set on me getting rid of the chest or her leaving. I told her a final time that there was not an ounce of a chance I was getting rid of it. Radio silence. Then she gets a bag of her stuff, hops in her car, and drives off, ignoring me when I asked what was going on. After calling her multiple times for a few hours, I learned she's staying with a friend, who she called in the car, I guess, so she originally just drove off, not knowing where she was going, and making arrangements to move out next week. I'm still in shock, but I mostly feel confused and hollow. Maybe I truly wasn't ready for a relationship. Maybe she's just crazy. Maybe a bit of both. OP, this person doesn't understand you or your loss. I'm a widow. It's been 9 years now without my beloved. The first 3 to 4 years were horrible. For the last 5 years, I've been living in harmony with my new partner. We're very content and this relationship is strong. I too have a memory box that was created when we began living together. Over the years, I have needed that box less and less because time really does heal. I also have a memory box for my late mother and sister. Those memories are priceless. I still have my sister's little christening gown. As my heart is healed with my partner's support, I've been able to move on, but those priceless boxes will follow me wherever I go. In some ways, I'm the gatekeeper of these precious moments. You are behaving in a perfectly reasonable manner, your partner is not. This past year, I almost forgot my late husband's anniversary of his passing. I always put up a temporary Facebook photo of my late husband. This year, my partner reminded me to this little act of remembrance because of my late husband's family appreciates it so much. I had to smile to myself because this meant I had truly moved on, and it solidifies the fact that my partner always has my back. I hope you find the peace that I have attained and a loving partner that always supports you too. It's not that you haven't moved on. It's that your partner is too insecure to allow you to put your memories in their proper place and wants to eradicate your previous life before her. That's very selfish, and I'm so sorry. I'm amazed, but also kind of scared of my girlfriend. I, 28 male, have been dating Jen, 27 female, for 2 years, and she's amazing. Kind, smart, funny, pretty, everything. She has a really warm and bubbly personality, smiles and laughs a lot. I'd say she has RNF, resting nice face. She's also 5'5" of caged fury. Between her looks and approachable personality, she gets guys who flirt with her a lot. She also gets a lot of women who are jealous of her. I used to get really jealous when guys tried to talk to her, and she would get mad at me for being jealous. Let me be 100% clear. She's not particularly flirty. She doesn't initiate conversations, doesn't lead guys on. She's not looking for male attention. I'm 6'1" and somewhat intimidating build, so my go-to move is standing tall with my arms crossed and staring at the guy, then saying something like, "Is there an issue?" Instead of immediately jumping in when guys start flirting with her and causing an argument with her, I started to pay attention to how she handles unwanted attention. She's like a ninja deflecting creeps and mean girls. She reads the situation and knows when to act nice, when to ignore them, when to be firm, and when to leave. I started to realize I don't need to be jealous and she can take care of herself. I tore up my knee over the summer. She basically moved in to help me during my surgery and rehab. She's been amazing, taking me to things when I couldn't drive, making me food when I couldn't even stand, helping me do my PT. I'm still wearing a knee brace, but I'm getting there. She loves to dance. Although I'm terrible, I love going with her because it makes her happy and she looks incredible when she's dancing. Since my injury, we haven't gone out much and we haven't gone dancing. I'm not able to dance more than a slow dance, so I got her friends to go with us so she has someone to dance with. Pretty sure she likes dancing with her female friends more anyway. It was me, Jen, a couple, and 2 girls. The couple left pretty early. Watching her dance, I had a moment of clarity. All I could think was how lucky I was that I'd be going home with the person I most loved in the world. I realized I wanted to marry her. 3 attractive women dancing are going to draw attention. I'm no hater, but it was funny watching guys try to flirt with them and glad that it wasn't me anymore. This group of guys in particular weren't getting the hint. They surrounded the girls and tried to dance behind them. Jen said something and pushed them aside. The girls came back to where I was sitting and the guys are glaring at us. Club closes and we're walking out towards my car. Turns out the guys weren't ready to let it go. A couple of the guys were insulting us, especially me for being a beta, that I'm not a real man. The irony that these guys think I should have been protecting my girlfriend was totally lost on them. They're getting louder and more aggressive. We try to defuse the situation, but they're not letting up. A fight seemed inevitable. We're a block from the club, so I tell the girls we're going to head back to where the people waiting for Ubers are standing. They block our way, and I'm about ready to get in their faces, hoping I can intimidate my way out while the girls get away. I have one bad leg, and if someone shoves me, I'll probably fall down. Plus, there's only one of me. Jen suddenly releases a stream of insults toward these guys and doesn't let up. I'm not sure she even stopped to take a breath. They were shocked, and so was I, by the genuine rage directed towards them. I've never seen her so angry. They're backing up while she's moving towards them screaming. She's driving them back towards the crowd while also creating a commotion. I told you, she's a ninja. Some club goers start to come over, and it's clear that they aren't on the guy's side. The guys are embarrassed because they're getting upbraided by 120 pounds of white-hot rage. This is the part where I should be embarrassed. My girlfriend, who is 8 inches shorter and 75 pounds lighter, kept me from getting my butt kicked. Honestly though, it was one of the most coolest things I've ever seen. She's a keeper. I better get a ring on this one before she realizes she can do better. Update. I was trying to work up the courage to talk to her about our future and make sure we were on the same page. I know she loves me and wants to be my wife, but she has a lot she wants to achieve, like going to grad school. I would have understood if she wanted to wait to get engaged. It still would have hurt though. She was sitting on the couch reading a book and I was just looking at her. I was thinking, she's so amazing. Just talk to her. Everything will be fine. She looked at me through her big dumb glasses and smiled. That was the final push I needed. Fortunately, we were both on the same page and ready to take the next step. We just went on a long weekend. We were walking to a little spot with a beautiful view for a picnic, and I pretended to stumble and re-injure my knee. Pretty sure she didn't buy it, but she played along. She loved the ring and of course accepted. I'm amazed by and kind of afraid of my fiance. I think what I did was fine, but you decide. Okay, so this started a major fight between me, 24 male, and my girlfriend who's 24. So my girlfriend and I have lived together for 4 years, been together for 6 years, high school sweethearts. At 20, I was lucky to be making quite a bit of money, and so I bought myself a new Jeep Wrangler as a second car to have fun with. My other car was my birthday present from my parents when I turned 18, a 2017 Subaru. My girlfriend's car was totaled right after we moved in together, and so I let her use whichever of my cars I wasn't using and put her on my insurance. She never ended up buying another car because she can't save money, and she has gotten comfortable in my new fancy cars compared to her '04 Camry. Now we get to the problem. She crashed both of them in a month. My Jeep just needed $4,500 worth of bodywork, but my Subaru was a total loss. She was totally fine, no injuries whatsoever. Both of them were her fault. The Jeep, she pulled out of a parking space too tight and scraped every panel from front to back and destroyed the other car. The Subaru, she was texting and driving and hit a parked car at 25 miles per hour in our neighborhood. Now I get that accidents happen, but she took no responsibility for either accident. The Jeep is somewhat understandable, but to be texting and driving, something she knows I feel very strongly against, and not take responsibility made me upset. So I told her it's fine, but that I would be taking the insurance money for the Subaru and sell my Jeep after it was fixed, and buying myself a new car, and that $5,000 of it would go to her to either buy a cheap used car or use as a down payment for something nicer. Wait, you're gonna give her $5,000 after what she did? Why? She said okay, and nothing else really. The next Saturday, when the Jeep was fixed, I did exactly what I said I was going to, and bought myself a tricked-out Volvo. My girlfriend was working and came home and went ballistic, saying she couldn't believe I didn't get her a car too and wasted it buying such a nice car for myself. I told her with a $5,000 down payment, you can pretty much buy exactly what we had before, maybe a bit newer. But she was mad because she will have monthly payments and won't be able to afford everything for her skincare routine or be able to save to buy Christmas presents. That bit about presents for her family really made me feel like a jerk. I did offer to help with that and explained I just wanted her to have an asset in her name. If we ever broke up, you would need your own car. And that set her off again about if I see my life with her or not. She's staying at her mom's house currently and won't talk to me. Am I the jerk? ETA. Yes, we live in the US, but I'm not originally from the US. I'm a dual citizen. So she wrecked not one, but 2 cars that were not hers and feels zero remorse for it? And she expects you to not only help her get a car, but straight up pay for one so that she can go about spending her money on whatever frivolous materialistic thing she wants? Your offer to give her money for a down payment on a new car is more than what she deserves in this situation. She's an adult who should be capable of doing adult things. Also, her trying to guilt trip you by saying she won't have money for Christmas gifts is a poor excuse for not wanting to pay for something. Not the jerk. The fact that she's 24 and acting like this is truly perplexing. OP. Yeah, never seen this side of her. Also, she's never been this close to her mom her whole life, and personally, I think her mom is influencing her decisions. And technically, it's 9 cars. She wrecked her Camry sliding out on ice at 50 miles per hour and hit 3 parked cars. Then my Jeep, she did significant body damage to it and totaled the older car. Then the Subaru she totaled, hitting a parked car texting and driving, and the car she hit struck the car in front, but most likely not a total loss. She totally shouldn't have a license. Update. Well, it's been almost 2 months since I posted, and also 2 months since we broke up. I appreciate everyone who didn't just call me an enabler. So she was the one to break up with me. Her reasoning for wanting to break up is that she no longer saw me as a romantic partner, but rather as a boss, landlord, and a parent. It definitely hurt since I still loved her even through all of this. She moved out the last of her things from my storage on Saturday and brought her new boyfriend with her. Not to be judgmental, but he looks homeless, so that was kind of funny. I did end up giving her the $5,000 I promised her, and well, no other way to say it, that was probably a mistake. Instead of buying a car, it looks like she bought her mom and her a trip to Mexico. She posted it on her Instagram, and I know she didn't have that kind of money, and her mom most certainly didn't pay for it. I honestly don't know if she has a car or if she's still driving her new boyfriend's car, her mom's, or decided to just use transit and Uber. As for me, I still love my little Volvo. My best friend going back to middle school ended up moving into my condo now that it's just me, and I got a really lucrative new contract at work. Haven't bothered looking for anything romantically since the breakup, and have been working on myself and trying to identify what qualities I really want in my future partner. So yeah, sorry to everyone who was hoping for some bigger drama. I'm gonna call you an enabler again because you stupidly gave her $5,000. Hope you grow from this experience, but please know that that was really stupid. OP. Honoring my word is important to me, maybe to a fault, but you know what? I'll take that over being thought of as a liar or a flake. Cut it out. It makes no sense to give her the $5,000 after she totaled one car and caused $4,500 worth of damage to your Jeep. OP. Yeah, I would not let her back in my life. I realize now that it was a one-sided relationship. For trips, Christmas, her birthday and such, I constantly had to one-up last year or she would be upset. I'm learning a lot from my therapist about self-worth. All in all, I'm glad I kept my word and gave her the money. I'm trying to wrap my head around giving someone $5,000 when that person is at fault for wrecking not one, but 2 cars. I'd be demanding money from them for that, not giving them money after the situation they caused. What on earth? Am I the jerk for telling my husband he'll always be second? My younger brother, who's 22, developed a neurological disorder in his teens. When he was old enough, he became my responsibility. He seems just like everyone else, but he needs supervision, and it would be very difficult for him to live alone. My husband knew this when we started dating. I've told him a billion times my brother will always be my priority. He understood. My husband and brother's relationship has been decent. My brother doesn't care for him much, and my husband treated him kindly. Like I said, he was quite understanding. Things started to change a couple of months ago. He's not mean, but he's become distant. I asked him if everything was all right, and he asked me if my brother would ever move out. I told him the truth. Most likely, no. Of course, we don't know what the future may hold, but my brother still needs me at this moment in time. My husband didn't push it. The other day, my husband came home with one of his coworkers. I was given no warning. I tried calling my brother so he wouldn't be overwhelmed when he came home from his job, but his phone was dead. So when he did come home, he was extremely overwhelmed and I had to take him on a walk. My husband called me several times while we were out on the walk, but I didn't answer. Honestly, I was a little annoyed, but mostly I was busy with my brother. We went home eventually, and his coworkers had left, thankfully. I was just going to let it go, but my husband yelled at me for embarrassing him in front of his coworkers. I asked him what he meant by that, and he explained that I had a bad attitude with everyone and was very inhospitable. He said I didn't act like his wife, and one of his coworkers made fun of my husband for marrying me. By this, he meant cook for and entertain them. Keep in mind, had he given me a warning, I would have done so with no complaints. But was I supposed to read his mind? I told him to snap out of it, and he should know better. My husband rolled his eyes and told me that I only have my brother in my head and that he's just a second thought. He then called my brother a name that he shouldn't have. This made me extremely angry, so I told him there's no use in getting mad at me. He married me knowing that he'll always be second. He called me insufferable before leaving. Now he's with his mom, and she yelled at me for coddling my brother and neglecting my husband. I'm curious and you let off steam. Am I the jerk? Edit. Just in case anyone gets the wrong idea, my husband isn't involved in my brother's care, like at all. Not even financially. I wouldn't put that burden on him. He did go to a few therapy sessions just to understand my brother's disability, but that's it. Not the jerk, and maybe also no jerks here. Your husband is a jerk for snapping, yes, but my guess is just after all this time, I guess you're not married since yesterday, it's starting to grind on him, and this is to a point where he can't keep it in check anymore. So it comes out in a bad way. This is human and it can happen. I think you have to think this over. What will happen if you have kids? When you're 82 and have your own set of health issues, will you be able to take care of your brother then? Will you not go on vacations, not have kids, or have them raised by someone else? Not have a dog or a cat or a garden? Not have a career or hobbies because you have to take care of your brother? Will you divorce and stay single forever if necessary? Your husband might be thinking more and more about both your future and becoming frustrated. I think that parents with disabled kids should not push the responsibility to their siblings, but prepare for a good solution after their passing. They apparently did not do that, and my guess is that this impedes your marriage going somewhere. Your being full-time caretaker of your brother can lead to you not having a life, but also being the caretaker for him until the day that you pass, with every other responsibility or wish coming second. So when things have calmed down a bit, maybe look into assistance for your brother. Part-time, a good facility, whatever, there's options. You don't need to go from, I'm 100% his caretaker, to, I don't care for him anymore. You're the jerk. You did what you thought was best for your brother, and you were rude to your husband and his guests in the process. Your husband apparently settled for second seat in your world, but he quite reasonably thought you'd find that you had some courtesy and respect. and maybe even love in your heart for him. His mistake. Not to worry, however. If you keep up the good work, you'll have no husband to worry about. My boyfriend takes advantage of being a golden retriever, and I'm fed up with him. I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend for 6 years. We've been living together for the past 2. He's a giant, dorky, handsome gamer with a naive, childlike heart. Recently, he went on a work trip with a new colleague, who's 29 female, and came back on cloud 9. Shortly after, I noticed he was hiding his phone. I asked if he noticed he was doing so, and he said, "Oh no." A few days later, I explicitly asked if he was texting his colleague. He said, "Yes, and I lied before when you asked because I didn't want you to get the wrong idea." We had been going through some other relationship issues related to his avoidant attachment, so I believed him, but asked if he could slow down building this new relationship as we worked to fix ours. He agreed. He's a golden retriever. He just wanted everyone to be happy. 2 days later, I felt what can only be explained as women's intuition. I asked to see his phone, which I've never done before. Sure enough, hundreds of photos were shared with the colleague over the last few weeks, and messages shared with her while I was left on read. I asked to see Instagram, and he added and DM'd her, mere hours after I asked him to slow things down. I thought the messages were flirtatious, talking about showers, how it's dangerous to go against HR and add her on Instagram. But he assured me that he was not capable of that. Again, he's just a cuddly dog. A week later, he told me that he told his colleague that I was uncomfortable with their relationship. I wish he hadn't aired our problems out to her or blamed me. Then he asked me if he could start texting her out of work hours again. He feels bad that he made things awkward. All throughout this, he still neglected our underlying relationship problems and instead prioritized her and her needs. When I called him out, it's my fault for assuming such a lovable guy could be capable of such calculated betrayal. He's close friends with 2 of his exes, so I don't have a problem with him having female friends, but this is different. Am I overreacting or just stupid? It sounds like he loves the feeling of having a new person to text, DM, and share with. He loves to share with people and get the validation from them that he's a great guy to be around. So either you have to accept that his new thing is going to take priority, or don't and find someone who will be more into you as their one-to-one thing than this guy. You can only change yourself, and you know what he's like, so the choice is yours. The 2 exes as fake friends would have been the end for me, much less the emotional and possible physical cheating happening with the coworker. He's right that he is a dog. I once dated a man like this. He painted Dungeons & Dragons figurines, and I naively thought nerds won't cheat. He had a woman living with him the entire 2 months he chased me. Even after I called him out on his BS, he still periodically texted me or messaged me until I blocked him everywhere. Funny as heck, cause this guy thought he looked like Chris Pratt. More like Crisp Rat. My 18-year-old daughter refuses to get a job because she's a single mom. I have 2 daughters, April, who's 18, and Jade, who's 15. I'm a single mom. April and Jade's dad and I got divorced around 13 years ago as he was having an affair. He's never been in the picture for either of our girls after that. When April was 16, she unexpectedly got pregnant. I took her to counseling to help her organize her thoughts and figure out what she wanted to do, and April decided she wanted to keep the baby. The pregnancy and birth went smoothly, and I now have a grandson, Ollie, who's 2. The father is involved, but he and April are no longer together. Ollie stays with his dad every weekend, and the dad's parents give April money to go towards Ollie's expenses. Earlier this year, April graduated high school. She's been taking care of Ollie during the week, but other than that, she hasn't been up to much. She keeps saying that she'll start looking for a job, but she hasn't even started writing a resume. Besides taking care of Ollie, she just sits at home watching TV. On multiple occasions, April has tried to leave Ollie with Jade so that she can go out partying, which has led to huge arguments. Last week, I talked to April, and I told her that she needs to get a job or go to our local community college, and that I'll foot the bill for any childcare she needs for it to happen. I told her she needs to get a job or go to college in order to stay here. April got upset and said that she doesn't want a job or to go to college. She said she just wants to be a mom. She told me it can wait until Ollie starts school. I told her no, and that she needs to start something so that she can support herself and be an independent adult. April said I'm being unreasonable and that these things can wait until Ollie is in school full-time. She said that I'm asking her to damage him and that he needs his mom. It's not that I don't want April and Ollie here. I love them both. I just think I'd be setting a bad precedent by allowing April to continue to stay with me with no job and no education in the making. You're the jerk. That's basically teen mom territory. You should be supporting her. That's an extremely hard situation to be in. If you're capable of supporting her, you should. As a toddler mom myself with no job or schooling, objectively, you're the jerk. I would hate to be told I either had to sacrifice my time with my still developing kid in the most crucial years of their life or move out. But I also have tried to look for jobs, and my mom told me to stop before I got pregnant. She has never pushed me to do anything like that. She's encouraged it, but never with ultimatums. Yes, you're the jerk 1 billion%. Parents are meant to 1. Set the example for their kids, 2. Be there for their kids. She's barely a legal adult. Her brain won't fully develop until she's about 25, and you're telling her she needs to be a single mom with a job, or go to college, or she gets the boot? She needs community and support. She's become a teenage parent during the middle of a lockdown. She doesn't need your lack of parenting making her life worse. An entire you're the jerk and forget you for that. That's straight up abandonment. You're the jerk. You sound exactly like my mom, the woman who got my kid taken away. My mom hounded me every day about getting a job because she forgot how stressful it is being a young mom for the first time. Every time I tried to do something as simple as play a video game while my son was in his crib, my mom would flip out. She threw a fit every time I wanted to go out with friends or, God forbid, go on a date. My psychotic mother's treatment of me led to me majorly resenting my kid to the point where I would leave for days on end and just block her number. She decided that instead of showing me support and being a loving grandmother, reporting me would be a better option. The state decided I was unfit to be a parent. Gee, you think? I was 19. Maybe my mom could have been an actual, grandma? I feel so sorry for your daughter, and I hope she goes no contact with you, since you're nothing but an unsupportive jerk. Reddit, the internet's official worst place to seek parenting advice. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their daughter? Please let us know. Please never seek parenting advice from Reddit. I can't think of any worse place. Am I the jerk for letting my sister's kids live with me? I, female 50s, have a sister who's in her 40s who sees herself as a my family lives in a camper van Instagram influencer. In 2020, she, her husband, and their 4 kids moved into a camper. They homeschool the kids, travel all over the US, etc. They come to visit for holidays, but we don't see them besides that. My husband and I are the opposite. We have 4 kids and live in a big, beautiful house in Colorado. So the issue. My sister and her family came over for Thanksgiving and spent the night. My sister's oldest, 13-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, slept in my daughter's and son's rooms. In the morning, my niece and my sister got into a big argument, with my niece being incredibly angry at her mother for making her live in a camper when she could have so much more space, not have to share so much with her brothers, they all sleep in the same area, and be able to have more clothes, friends, and extracurricular activities. I asked what was going on, and according to my sister, this has been an argument for a while. Money is not an issue. They had a huge house before and sold it for a massive amount of money. My sister has a trust fund and a job. She just likes living in a camper. After a brief conversation with my husband and my kids, we offered, in private to my sister, to take my eldest niece in. We have extra guest rooms and could make one a bedroom for her. There are great schools in our area. We'd pay for everything for her, etc. She instantly said no, that she knew what was best for her daughter. She would miss her siblings. We didn't mention it again. Well, my youngest, she's 13, told my cousin about the offer. She was very happy, but angry that her mother hadn't brought it up to her. She told my sister that if she made her come live in the camper again, she'd never do anything her mother wanted, because it was unfair that her mother wasn't letting her have a true childhood. While I don't condone tantrums like that, I understand where she was coming from and helped convince my sister. When her twin brother found out, he wanted to stay too. My sister asked him what she was supposed to do without them. How was she going to care for the younger siblings without them? Talking about missing out on family trips, etc. But nephew didn't change his mind. We agreed to a trial period, 3 weeks, which ended 3 days ago. My sister came back, fully expecting her kids to want to come back with her, but they flat out refused to even go in the camper. My sister is very angry. She said that I was supposed to make them want to live with her and that I'm a horrible sister for treating her like this. She said I should kick them out, and I said no. She said that I'm a massive jerk and told her kids to not expect her to come back for them when they get tired of maximalism. Now her kids are sad, but they still don't want to leave, and I'm worried I've ruined my relationship with my sister. Am I the jerk? Edit. I've been told that the technical name of the vehicle I'm referencing is a motorhome. It's one of those large, house on wheels things. I thought that they were called campers since that's what my sister always calls it. Edit 2. Someone in the comments mentioned I should add this here. We have temporary guardianship signed by my sister. Her husband came over after they left, and we filled out the power of attorney forms, got the things we need to put them in school, etc., and he took them back and had her sign them, so we should be all clear. My brother is an attorney, and he helped us with the forms as well. I can see why your sister may not like it, but I don't think the camper van life is suited to all. The idea of it would be horrifying to me, both as an adult and a teenager. And I suspect a lot of 13-year-olds would want to have friends and hobbies that aren't just online. You brought up the idea in private, which was a good way to approach it. It's a shame your daughter wasn't able to keep it private, but truthfully, I think she did the correct thing. Your sister asked them what she was supposed to do without them? This sounds like parentification, which is not a good thing for the twins. They should be living the life of teenagers, only helping to look after younger siblings if they're paid babysitters, and only for a few hours a week, if they want extra money. You're not the jerk. I thought that after the first paragraph, and the rest just confirmed it for me. Not the jerk. Your sister sounds selfish and like a lunatic. She wants to live this way, but her kids don't. They need a stable home, friends, family, and education. Living like nomads is not something most kids can do. End of the day, you are helping your niece and nephew out. You're not beholden to your sister or supposed to do anything but help the kids. Yeah, you strained your relationship with her, but that relationship is not worth the health of these kids. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Let us know in the comments below. Oh, how I hate moving. I can't even bear the thought of moving every week or so living in a camper. Karen demands I leave the library because I'm homeless and I look like Santa. So I am homeless, but no, I don't drink, and no, I'm not on anything. I'm trying to get a job, but finding employment when homeless is not an easy task. Every few days, I take a trip to the library to charge my phone and batteries so I can keep my phone on and working. I typically spend 3 to 4 hours in a quiet corner of the library glued to the power outlet charging. Today, I had a cute, then frustrating interaction between a kid and their parent. I walked through the sliding doors of the library and I wandered around looking for an open chair near an outlet to sit and charge. I heard this little voice shout out in excitement and glee, "Santa!" and pitter-patters of little boots running over to me. Now, I get it, I really do. A big bearded man dressed in red with big black bags and an oversized backpack strapped over his shoulder. Any kid would easily mistake me for the big jolly man. The kid stopped dead in front of me. She was clenching her fists tight, trembling in excitement. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old. She looked up at me, her eyes opened wide, and uttered the word, "Hi, Santa." That made me smile and I laughed. Her mother came running over, scooped her kid up, and said sorry to me, walked away, and told her kid that's not Santa. The entire interaction put a smile on my face, but here's where it went downhill. I found an open seat and plugged in to charge and do my thing. The kid and her parent were on the other side of the library, but the kid was still brimming with excitement. I could see her head poke out of the bookshelf, staring at me every so often. That went on for about half an hour. Until, I guess, the mother couldn't handle it anymore, and she came over to talk to me. She asked me to leave and find a different spot because I'm distracting her daughter. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but this is the only open space with an outlet. I need to charge my stuff." She very sarcastically said, "Oh, why's that?" I replied, "Because I don't have one. I'm homeless." I thought that was the end of it because her face went red and she walked away. But no, she came back. She went up to the front desk to ask if there are any outlets outside and if it's okay for me to go use them instead. Seriously, she said that the library is okay with me using outlets outside to charge so I can go out there. I asked her, "So you don't want me in the library, a public institution, to charge? You would rather me sit outside in the cold just because your kid thinks I'm Santa? Really? That's it?" I look up at her and said, Well, ho ho ho, Merry Christmas to you. I'm going to stay right here until my batteries are charged. The lady went to the front desk and I listened in because I figured that I was in trouble and getting kicked out. She asked them to tell me to leave. They said they can't unless I'm intentionally making a disturbance, being violent or threatening. I've been here before. I keep to myself and I don't bother anyone. So yeah, I was there for 4 hours. I didn't move or get kicked out. My things are charged and good for the next few days. Honestly, not the worst interaction I've ever experienced, but at least she was somewhat polite. Edit. I don't think she was being malicious at all. I think in her mind, she was doing a good deed. Am I the jerk for canceling the babysitter after my wife decided not to attend my work holiday party? I'm 38, male. My work held our annual holiday party last Friday. It was held at one of those axe-throwing places which I had never been to before, so I figured it would be pretty fun. My wife, who's 36, and I have 3 kids who are 10, 8, and 5, so we don't get out of the house for dates very often. The holiday party was planned almost 2 months ago, and my wife agreed to attend with me. I suggested we make it more of a date by either going out for drinks after the party or catching a late-night movie. She thought this sounded like a good idea too. I also arranged for a babysitter to come watch the kids for that night. The day of the party, my wife got home from work and told me that she had a horrible day and was in a bad space mentally, so she didn't want to come to the party. I told her I was really disappointed, but I understand if she wants to stay home. As I was getting myself ready to head to the party, I called the babysitter and canceled. I apologized to her and offered to Venmo her an hour's worth of our agreed rate, $30, to compensate for the cancellation, and she agreed that was reasonable. As I was getting ready to leave, my wife asked when the babysitter was going to get here. I kind of looked at her funny and told her I had just canceled the babysitter because she was no longer coming with me. She got mad at me and told me that I knew she had a bad day and was in a bad mental state and needed some time to herself. I told her that I had assumed none of that meant she was incapable of watching our kids and that I didn't think having the babysitter come over when my wife was still home made any sense. She told me to call her back and see if she could still come watch the kids, and I told her that if she wanted to do that, then she can do it, but I'm not going to. She tried to argue with me about it, but I told her that I had to leave for the party. While I was at the party, she sent me multiple texts about how the kids were driving her nuts and that the babysitter didn't answer her calls and she needed me to come home. She kept blowing up my phone, and I eventually left the party over an hour early to go home. When I got there, she kept arguing with me about how I was the jerk for canceling the babysitter when I knew she had had a rough day. I told her I wasn't going to pay a babysitter just so my wife can rest after a bad day. I told her she could have just thrown a movie on for the kids and relaxed. I told her she was the one who ruined our potential night out and that having a bad day at work is not a good enough reason to pay a babysitter $150 to $200. She still thinks I was the jerk for canceling the babysitter without talking to her first, and she's still mad at me for it. But I don't think that was an unreasonable assumption to make, considering the fact that there have been plenty of times when I've had a bad day and I'm still capable of watching the kids by myself while my wife leaves the house. Edit. Hey everyone, can we cool it with the purely speculative cheating angle? My wife goes to yoga class with 5 other moms from our neighborhood. So unless they're all stepping out on their husbands or all in cahoots together, she's not cheating. Our neighborhood isn't some reality TV show, and real life isn't like that. She's an introvert, and when she gets to her social limit, she doesn't want to go out. It's happened before, which is why I didn't push her to come out with me. For all the parents and/or folks who aren't independently wealthy responding "you're the jerk," please ask yourself this. When was the last time, after having a rough day at work, that you decided it was a good reason to spend $150 to $200 on a babysitter so you could stay home with your kids and the babysitter? Never? Then shut up. Of course, OP, the person who made all the arrangements for their long-planned and much-anticipated date, canceled the babysitter because he hired her based on the fact that no parents were going to be home to watch the kids. Now that one of the kids' parents was going to stay home and never suggested they needed the help with a sitter with their own kids, why on earth would he waste $150 on this? That cash can be put towards a sitter when they are both able to go out. Not the jerk. Use my email as your spam dump? Prepare to be carpet bombed. One day, many years ago, I got an email addressed to someone who had the same first initial and last name as I do. For the purpose of this story, I'll call him G-Man. As with anyone who uses a common email address, think first initial and last name, you sometimes get an email that isn't for you. It was mostly incidental things like receipts and the occasional personal email. I was chalking them up to being a data entry error. Perhaps they misheard the email address and instead of typing in his, they typed in mine. No big deal. In the cases where I could, I'd politely reply to the sender and let them know that I wasn't the intended recipient and to please let G-Man know that he's giving out the wrong email address going forward. It was never successful. I'd still get emails for G-Man, and it was for things that I'd think you'd want to receive, like order receipts or something that had a confirmation number attached to it. I tried to track down G-Man, but to no avail. There were multiple people on social media with his name, so I could never 100% confirm which one he might have been. As this went on for years and years, until finally one day I got a personal email addressed to G-Man that referenced the company he worked for. Aha! Now I had something. I looked him up. It turns out that G-Man is the systems manager at said company. His LinkedIn bio says that he's an IT professional. That's interesting. I find his company email and forward him the email, also advising him that the other address he's using is attached to another person, and it would be great if he could be more mindful of what he's typing in or giving out. Again, I was polite in my request to him. He replied and apologized. I thought, it's finally over. But it wasn't over. Oh no, far from it. The emails I received that were addressed to G-Man actually began to increase in volume. Now I'm getting emails from mailing lists and account signups and all sorts of other crap. This guy, the so-called IT professional, is clearly using my email address as his spam dump, knowing that it went to an actual person. I would have to sort through dozens upon dozens of emails daily as a result of this, and as we all know, once you're on one mailing list, you tend to end up on a lot more of them. By now, I've decided that clearly this clown is deliberately being a jerk, so it's gloves off and game on. I decide to extract revenge at any opportunity. It started out simple enough. If I got an account sign up, I'd click the link to verify it and then promptly log in and deactivate the account. It worked for a bit, but then there would be another sign up, so I got more creative. I'd log into the account, change all the information, and most importantly, the password, which would leave the account active but totally inaccessible since any attempt at password recovery sent the email to my account, which was then promptly ignored and deleted. Hotel booking? I'd log on and cancel it the day before he was due to arrive. I'm guessing he never got noticed though, since it was all coming to my email. Basically, anything I could do that would inconvenience G-Man, I'd do it. This back and forth continued on for years. In fact, I still occasionally get emails for the guy. Then one day it happened. I got an email receipt for an order that G-Man had placed. It had the recipient's name and address, but more importantly, it had G-Man's address on it. I've got a golden ticket. I finally had the means of the ultimate revenge. I took his address and I signed him up for everything I could. Free samples of things that he wouldn't have any use for. Catalogs that he definitely wouldn't want. I spent an entire day finding anything I could enter his address into and filled out all of them. But the coup de grace, the cherry on top, when I was finding things to sign up for, I stumbled onto a website that allowed you to order free flooring samples. They'd be various sizes, but some were 12 by 12 squares. Carpet, tile, wood, linoleum, whatever. I signed G-Man up for every sample I could. Then I found another site offering the same thing and I did it again and again, up until the point where I literally lost track of how many free flooring samples I signed him up for. My guess? It was easily in the hundreds, if not thousands. I literally carpet bombed G-Man. Coincidentally, the email volume certainly decreased. I never heard from G-Man either. Maybe he deleted my initial email and forgot, or maybe he was buried under all those flooring samples. Either way, I'm sure once they started to arrive, he realized his mistake. I bet to this day he still gets items delivered to his address. My wife wants to name our baby after her deceased ex-boyfriend. When my wife and I met, she had broken up with her boyfriend almost a year prior. We went on a couple of dates until I noticed she slowly stopped talking to me. I found out she had gotten back with her boyfriend. We remained friendly since we would run into each other at the gym. That's how we met. A year later, they break up. I decided to go for it again and asked her out. She was pretty upfront about him, and I learned that they had been on and off again for almost 4 years. She left him because he started mistreating her. We get married a little over a year later. A few months later, she gets pregnant. Last week, I was sitting in the kitchen studying until I heard my wife yell out, crying. I ran over to her to ask what was wrong. She had difficulty speaking, but she eventually showed me a post on Facebook that a mutual friend between her and her ex had posted. Her ex had been in a motorcycle accident and had passed. My wife was/is an avid motorcyclist who stopped riding when she got pregnant. She knew how passionate he was about motorcycle riding just as much as her. I console my wife and help her get to bed, letting her know that I'm here for her. I didn't think much about the whole thing until my wife told me last night that she wants to name our baby after him. I hesitated for a bit and told her that I feel uncomfortable with it. For one, this is your ex. Second, he mistreated you. Why would you want to honor someone like that? My wife got upset and just wouldn't hear me out on my reasons. She won't talk to me at all. Am I really in the wrong here? I'm just thinking that my wife is extremely emotional at the moment since she's pregnant and trying to process his passing. Any advice? Okay, I'll be the jerk here. Is this kid yours? She left you for him before. You got married very quickly and she got pregnant shortly after. It doesn't exactly sound like she was over him given her response and wanting to name the kid after him. Not the jerk. You are absolutely correct in not wanting to have your kid named after her ex. That's an incredibly disturbing thing to have to explain, which shouldn't even be an issue in the first place. I really hope she's just in a heightened emotional state right now, because this is very disrespectful to you and your marriage. OP. Yes, the kid is mine. When we started dating again, her ex moved back home to another state. We moved closer to our families too, right before we got married. Update. For Easter, we already had plans with her family to go to church and then have a barbecue at her sister's. Not wanting her family to see any tension, I saw this as a chance for her to have to speak to me. As we're getting ready for church, I tell her that we need to talk about everything now. She agreed and sat down with me. I did tell her that there's absolutely no way we're naming our baby after her ex, or any of our kids if we have more. She agreed and apologized for acting irrational. Also, I know a lot of you suggested that I get a paternity test. I know that I'm 100% the father. I didn't want anyone to get my anxiety up since, while it may seem rational, jumping into an extreme conclusion and making things worse. I thought it out, but I still did ask if she was in love with her ex still, and did she cheat? She adamantly said no. She had already stopped loving him even before they broke up. She tried to make the relationship work, but just wasn't in love with him anymore. She described him as not being a good person at all. She apologized for making me feel that way. I told her that I understand she's going through a lot of emotions right now, and being pregnant doesn't help at all. But I had to ask on why she would want to name our baby after him, even after all she has told me. She started to get choked up and was shaking. I told her that she could tell me. She confessed that when her and her ex broke up, the last thing she told him was that she wished he would fall off of his bike and pass on. Also, the bike that he had been riding was one that she strongly suggested he buy, even though it wasn't his first choice. She also talked about how accidentally getting pregnant and her ex suddenly passing is a lot for her to handle. She wasn't expecting to be a mom so soon, and her life is about to change when she really didn't want it to. She talked about how she thought we'd travel and that she'd continue racing her motorcycle. Now, she's not even sure if she'd be able to ride again. She actually thought she might be able to ride again once she had the baby, but her ex passing reminded her of how much of a risk it is. She doesn't want to risk her life when she has a family. She feels gutted. Regardless, she kept stressing out to me on how she wouldn't change a thing about her life now and that she's happy to be married to me and is going to be a mom. We're the best things that have ever happened to her. Anxiety also runs in my wife's family. My wife gets intrusive thoughts about how her ex passed too. It's so bad that she has a hard time sleeping sometimes. After discussing things, she decided that she'll be going into therapy. She has her first appointment this week. Am I the jerk for forcing a sale of my late husband and his girlfriend's home? This has caused a lot of mixed reactions, and I want an unbiased opinion. Neither me nor my late husband and his girlfriend have kids. I, 35 female, got separated from my husband, 37 male, over 10 years ago. Unfortunately, he has left me with a lot of debt to pay and in a position where I was nearly homeless. I've only stopped paying the debt off 2 years ago, but there's still a lot of work to improve my credit history. Because of all the stress he caused me, we never got divorced or formally separated. A matter of fact is, we never spoke after I was kicked out from the flat so his girlfriend, Anna, could move in. I was planning to file for divorce once I have enough spare income, but some events took place before I was able to do so. Now to where I can be a jerk. 2 months ago, my husband passed in a freak accident. He left no will behind and has a house which is paid off with his girlfriend. He ended up having a big promotion at work. I've spoken to the lawyer, and because we never divorced or filed for separation, I am entitled to half of the house as his next of kin. Last week, I've informed Anna through a letter that I want the house to be sold. She can either buy my half or I will have to force a sale. It's up to her. I don't want to live in the house, but the money from the sale could really help out to sort out the damage done by the loans I had to pay for my ex, as well as a deposit for my own place, so I don't have to live in horrible apartments due to poor credit and not having a high-paying job. It will also help me to work on my qualifications so I can get a better job in retirement. However, Anna and my ex's family have called me a massive jerk, saying I have no right to the house. Legally, I do, and that I'm being cruel and vindictive. I've reminded them that it's not my fault that their son hasn't divorced me or had a will, and said that I don't see how it's unfair as I had to pay for his debts while he lived a comfy life. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit. I have seen this coming up as a question a few times and don't want to keep responding with the same comment. My ex has maxed out my credit cards and took loans in my name, as well as cleared our savings account to fund his relationship with Anna and some of his gambling habits at the time. Regarding the house, both Anna and my ex are on the deed and had joint mortgage from what I was told, so legally she is entitled to the other half of the house. Not the jerk. You owe nothing to her. Sell the house and be done with it. Also, stop paying his debts if they are not also your debts. By paying them, some companies can assume you're admitting to the debts as your own. They will try to get you to pay, but you should fight it if you can. And why only half? If you have no kids, shouldn't you be getting the whole house as next of kin? Am I the jerk for asking my fiance to skip this year's Christmas family vacation because our baby is due? Context. I've gone to Florida with his family for the past 5 years for at least part of Christmas. Every other year, I returned before him to spend Christmas Day with my family. This year is the first time in a long time that all the other siblings are able to overlap dates. My fiance has major fear of missing out, which is why this is a sensitive subject. His parents have always been weird about keeping their family close. They've never said it outright, but little things suggest they don't consider me completely part of their family yet since we aren't married. Also, my parents are away overseas dealing with a grandparent emergency. My mom has been kept in the loop though, and is trying to come back as soon as she can. My fiance and I, 31 male and 31 female, are expecting our first baby due December 30th. His family has a vacation home in Florida, and they've gone every year during the holidays for about a month until after New Year. He agreed not to go this year because of the baby, but his family is insisting that he go and come back on the 28th, which is ample time before the baby is due. So he bought a ticket for December 15th through the 28th. His reasoning is that his parents really want him there and his siblings will also be going. This is bothering me a lot more than I thought because I know pregnancies are unpredictable, especially in the last trimester, and if anything happens leading up to the due date, I need him there. My parents are away until December 26th, and my friends have their families, so I will be completely alone. The other reason, and I guess it's more selfish, is that I will be spending Christmas by myself. It's not the main reason why I'm bothered, but it's a small part of it. He's been spending Christmas every year in Florida since he was 15, and there will be many more trips after the baby is born. I don't know why he has to go this year. Anytime I bring it up, it results in a very uncomfortable fight about my expectations to put me first rather than his parents. I don't even bring it up anymore. His parents have always been kind to me, but they also don't see any problems, so I think I'm going crazy. Am I the jerk here? Deeper context is that there was a major conflict between him and his sister-in-law last year that ruined the vacation and drove a wedge between him and his siblings. They left us out of major events, trips, etc., and they only started repairing their relationship a couple of months ago. While they're trying to fix things, they've left me out of it. They said it's a sibling matter. So I understand to a degree why he and his parents feel this trip is important to fixing his relationship with his family, but it definitely is the worst time for it. It's a sensitive topic. Update. The good news is that my mom arrived home yesterday. When I had explained everything to her, her sister, who's a retired nurse, insisted that she come too. I'm so thankful to have them here. It's hard to get my feelings across as there's a bit of a cultural barrier. My mom is from Hong Kong, and without going into details, the grandparent situation was very much an emergency, but she has siblings and my dad who's staying there at the moment. As for my fiance, I scheduled a virtual appointment with him and my OBGYN to update her and told her the whole situation. Like all of you, she was appalled and strongly recommended he not travel during this time. Her words were, "In my professional opinion, I'm going to very strongly recommend you reconsider your plans. In my personal opinion, I'm going to insist it." It was probably on me for not alerting her sooner regarding his travel plans. After that, he's still going, but adjusting his dates so that he'll be back on the 22nd. There will be a one-day overlap with his siblings. His mom isn't too happy he won't be there for Christmas. She suggested he fly back later on the 25th instead so that he can spend part of Christmas Day with them, but he said no. It's still not ideal for me. My mom and my aunt have insisted to speak with his parents, so we've scheduled a call with them later today. I reached out to my best friend too about this after I read some of your responses in private messages. She was livid and informed her husband that she doesn't care if it's on Christmas Day if I go into labor. She will drop everything and be there. She's also been kept up to date about who will be with me while he's away and will be visiting. I know there were a lot of questions regarding the family, but I can't address all of them. It's too much to write out. Yes, I know they don't treat me completely like family. There have always been small passive-aggressive things that bothered me. Not being invited to Mother's and Father's Day events, left out of family Secret Santa, not being allowed to sleep in the same room with him when we visit, etc. Yes, I know that his mother must be aware that he shouldn't be leaving me at 37 weeks. She's not dumb, and I update her after my appointments, so I know she knows this too. I don't know why she's saying it's okay, but I have an idea why. My mom made it clear she will be addressing all of this in the call. Some of you have wondered how they can afford to go to Florida for a month. His parents are retired and snowbird there. His siblings and sister-in-law all have 9-to-5 jobs that are partly remote, so they're lucky enough to take their work to Florida and work there. My fiance is a gig worker, so he dictates his own schedule. Obviously, their schedules don't always align. I haven't shown him this thread yet. At the moment, it's just one more thing I don't want to deal with him. I may in the future, but I have suggested we go to therapy before we set a wedding date. He agreed. I'm also seeking counseling for myself. Also, I'm expecting a girl. Nope, this is just major red flags. I'm ticked off on the fact that the husband and family wanted to leave OP alone for the holidays when she's at the end of her pregnancy. Like, are you serious? This family is trash, and the husband is too. I have a feeling things are going to get worse. My daughter wasted her college fund on a trip to a Comic-Con. My daughter is 17 and applying for colleges. We have a college fund saved up for her that we've been adding to since she was a baby. It's a good sizable chunk of money, and a lot of donations from family have gone into it, as well as her own savings occasionally. We've always made it clear that the money is there for college only. She never had to put her savings in there. She has a separate savings account, but she did so anyway. Anyway, her girlfriend lives in Australia, and they are both insanely big Supernatural fans. They both have wanted to go to a convention for years, at least 5 that I can remember. 2 of the main guys are going to a convention in Australia. She begged me to let her go, and I said no, but the convention is set for after her 18th birthday. I can't stop her if she pays for it. I assumed she would use her own savings. I checked the college account to add some in, and I noticed a chunk of money missing. I went to speak to my daughter about it, and she admitted to using the money to pay for the convention. She bought herself plane tickets, her girlfriend plane tickets, it's on the other side of the country, both of their con tickets, as well as booking a hotel. The convention is 3 or 4 days long, but she's planning on staying for a couple weeks and is making a vacation out of it. All in all, she's taken about $10,000. I lost it, honestly. Demanded she cancel, which fell on deaf ears. I tried to cancel for her, but she won't be refunded everything, so I'm hesitant to do so. She's insisting that it's her money and she can do whatever she wants with it. Claims she still has enough for college and this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I believe this has shown her extreme immaturity and inability to manage her future and money. I'm so incredibly angry that she would go and do this. I told her she could say goodbye to the rest of her college fund, and I've locked the account. I'm now the only person with access. She said she'll pay it back, but it seems unlikely. My wife thinks I'm being harsh and that she's right. She put at least $5,000 into the account herself, so she really only took $5,000, which her mother-in-law has since said that she'll pay back. I think that would just teach her that she can pay her way out of messes. I was certain in my decision, but everyone's acting like I'm the jerk. She's a teenager, and her entire life shouldn't revolve around college. I'm still uncertain, so here I am. Am I the jerk? You put the money into the fund to send your daughter to college, not to some fan convention in Australia. Now you're making sure that money doesn't help send your daughter to college. If this is your way of getting your daughter to college, it stinks. I can't help but note that you, the responsible adult, didn't set up the account with the withdrawal protections that you could have. You should have been wise enough to know that a 17-year-old with free access to that big of a pile of cash shouldn't have access to it without limits. That in no way excuses your daughter, but it does mean that you should have had more foresight into the folly that teens can do. Mother-in-law is putting herself in where she isn't needed. She needs to understand that it isn't about dollars, it's about being responsible. Not the jerk for telling your daughter that she isn't getting the money, but you would be a real idiot if you followed through with that to the extent of emptying the account, depriving yourself of the option to change your mind when you cool down and are looking at a high school graduate who needs a job. Am I the jerk for making my ex-wife and her kids live in poverty even though I have money? I, 46 male, recently finalized my divorce with my now ex-wife, Lisa, who's 41 female. We were only married for 3 years, and the cause for divorce was issue with finances. We had separate bank accounts for our own savings and checkings accounts for where our salaries went to. I did create an extra account for her where I would deposit money into it monthly just as fun spending money, as I make significantly more and I wanted her to have less stress with her finances. Even with this setup, she would consistently go over the limit and would even take lots of cash out of my wallet and personal safe without informing me. When we were married, she and her 2 kids, who are 18 and 16, from her previous relationship, moved into my house that I own, and I paid for them to go to a private school. Their dad is in their life, so they never saw me as anything other than the guy who married their mom. But I understand that, because they did meet me much later in their lives and not as kids. Regardless, I tried to keep a good relationship, but neither of them ever wanted that and made me feel like an ATM. I got a really thorough prenup made before we got married, so I basically kept everything I have except for some alimony that I have to pay every month. After the divorce, Lisa and her kids moved out, and I informed her that I have closed the bank account I made for sending her money, and I'm going to stop paying for the kids' private school tuition after this year is over. So that way, at least they finish the year out and have a few months to figure out next plans and transferring. It's been about 3 months since then, and I got a nasty call from her saying she can't afford rent anymore, so her and the kids have to move in with her mother, and basically she went off on me for taking away the credit card attached to my bank account. Apparently, the kids have also had to stop some of their extracurricular sports because she can't pay for the programs. She said I left her in poverty and she had to apply for government assistance and food stamps. Also, when we were married, I had mentioned potentially paying for her kids' college tuition when the time comes, but it was never a set thing. Apparently, she still thought this offer was on the table and mapped out how her son had just got accepted to his dream school, and the cost of attendance would be $80,000 per year. So she wanted to know how I would be sending the funds for this. I just told her she's crazy if she thinks I'm giving up my hard-earned money for someone else's kids I have no ties to anymore, and that I covered her bills completely for 3 years, so she should have saved her salary then instead of blowing through it on designer items. A lot of her family and friends and her kid's dad are calling me, saying I need to provide for the kids at least because I'm their stepdad, and that's a lifelong commitment. Also, according to them, it's not fair that I'm taking away their opportunities to be at a fancy private school and college, especially when I have the money to pay for all of it and keep up the lifestyle to how it was when they lived with me. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. What kind of sane person would expect their ex-husband to pay for her and her kids' lives? Not to mention the fact that these kids aren't even yours. Tell them that their ATM is now closed and wish them the best with their life. Block their numbers and enjoy your money. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Her ex-husband, as in the father of the 2 kids in question, your former stepkids, called you up and said you needed to pay for his kids to go to college? ETA, you were never really married, were you? Marriage includes sharing, and you weren't really sharing. Separate bank accounts, strong prenup, etc. I'm not surprised you got divorced. Don't get with a woman who has kids if you're going to always see them as someone else's kids. Not the jerk, but I have a big issue with people who choose to get involved with parents and don't commit to the kids long term. It's not your obligation, but being with her for 3 years, married, plus whatever years dating, this is no small amount. It's 100% your money and you don't have to do anything. I just feel bad for the kids. Friend lost out on winning $1,000 lotto ticket because of me. I'm part of a specialized friend group where we all share the same hobby. Not really a hobby, but I don't want to give out personal information. I was really excited to join this group as I've been an avid hobbyist for over 6 years. I got to meet the entire group minus Mike, and we all got along great. It was an easy transition into the group, and I was having a lot of fun. Finally, about a month after joining, I met Mike. Mike was okay, pretty tough to get to know, like pulling teeth, but I just kind of ignored it and kept moving on with everyone else. Meanwhile, Mike was really inconsistent with showing up to the twice-a-month group meetings, so I didn't really get to know him. Throughout the years, Mike had an infamous birthday party that he would invite the group to, except for me. The first year I was okay with it because I had just joined and I was about 2 weeks in. Second year, I forgot about it until everyone was talking about it and then asked me why I didn't go. Well, I wasn't invited. Third year, same thing. I wasn't invited. So that one stung a little, but I made it my mission to really try and get to know him a bit more. However, it was never reciprocated and proved to be a difficult task. The problem was, the guy runs hot and cold. He's overly dramatic on some days and quiet as a mouse on other days. One time he'll get mad at you if you hug him, another time he'll be in your face all excited telling you the latest new gadget he got. Then the next time you see him, he's the complete opposite. Super huggy and barely talks. You'll ask him questions about himself and he'll either give you one-word answers or very vague answers. This is not just to me, but to everyone, and you never know which Mike you will get on any given day. I finally asked the group about him and their thoughts, and they all said exactly what I said down to the letter. I followed up with, why is he with this group? Technically, he was with the starting group members and has never left, so everyone just tolerates him. For our meeting just before his birthday, I got him a card, wrote him a nice sentiment, and bought $10 worth of scratchers. I brought it with me and he didn't show up. Came home, told the hubby that I was disappointed and a little mad that once again, he doesn't show. And that holds back the group dynamic for the evening. Also, he wasn't there for the third time in a row, which is a rule break within the group. So out of my frustration, I decided to scratch them off myself. To my surprise, every card was a winner. Technically won $1,012. I was so excited. This is the 4th year, and he celebrated his birthday month in August. Didn't invite me again, but at this point, I'm no longer offended or hurt by it. I don't want to go. It's almost mid-September, and he's endlessly complaining on social media right now on how broke he is from the 2 parties that he threw. Now his car repairs totaling $1,000, and he's basically crying for anyone to donate some money. I keep laughing at his posts because had he shown up to our meeting, he would have had the money to pay for his car repair. Also, no one in the group knew I bought a card and that I had some winning lotto tickets. Additional info. He wrote in our private group chat asking for some financial help. I responded, I'm praying for you right now. Praying hands emoji. Honestly, if he was a nicer person, I would have held on to the card and lotto tickets for him. We have a meeting tonight, and he's not going, even though someone offered him a ride. He seems like the type that would hold a grudge or go off on me for owing him this money. Again, he's super dramatic, and there's no telling on how he would react to the news. Updates. His aunt gave him $1,500 to get his car fixed. He went shopping and bought a dog and a $200 outfit. So he still doesn't have a car, but I belong to his social media, and he easily gets around town and out of the city, so he has some type of transformation, but I know it's not his own car that needed repair. Now on to the update of what happened Wednesday. So this past week was our Secret Santa gift exchange. Wouldn't you know it, I got him and he got me. He didn't show up, so now I'm without a gift exchange, and I just said in my head, forget it. I was prepared for this and bought something I liked, which was more lottery tickets. I scratched them off in front of everyone and won $75. Super exciting. Everyone blasted it on social media. He contacted me this morning saying that he couldn't make it last night because his dog was sick and he had my gift ready. He was excited to receive the $75 because he really needed it. I didn't respond. Meanwhile, he posted on his social media that he was out with friends that night, so I guess he forgot that we're connected on social media. Last night, we had a special meeting that was pre-planned for months. We did the Secret Santa exchange earlier in the week because we knew we wouldn't be able to celebrate it last night. He shows up, gives me a big hug, talks in the most friendliest way ever, which he has never done with me before, so it just looks and feels like someone completely sucking up. He eventually asks me directly for the money and doesn't even have the gift he's supposed to give me with an exchange. It's not like he had a backpack or a bag that it was in. Him. Okay, great. So where's the money I was supposed to win from my gift exchange? Me. "Oh, don't worry about the gift exchange. I'm fine." And I walked away. That's all I said. It didn't even make complete sense to me when I thought about it later, but it left him dumbfounded. He tried to complain about it to the other group members, but they were just not having it. With no collaboration, they all basically said the same thing. You hardly ever show up, and when you do, you're not 100% in. You rarely talk to OP when she's here, and now you want her to hand over $75 for a gift you weren't even here for? She had nothing to open and was left out. She owes you nothing. I have a feeling that this will not be the last I hear of it, but I will stand my ground. Am I the jerk for taking the family on vacation without my wife and stepdaughter? My stepdaughter is in high school and has a best friend she's known since they were babies. My wife and I have 2 kids together. My stepdaughter's best friend has a birthday in December. We are well aware of her birthday because we attend it every year. This year, my side of the family planned to take a huge overseas Christmas vacation, which required us to ask the friend's mother for the party date. We planned and bought our tickets to leave 2 days after the party so that my stepdaughter wouldn't miss it. Monday, my stepdaughter came home and told us that the party date was moved to accommodate some of her friend's family members who decided last minute to fly in for it. The problem is that the date was moved to one well after our departure date. Here's the problem. First, we're not made of money, so for us to change the flight and hotel for our family would more than double the cost. Second, it will be a 2 weeks overseas trip, so I already had my vacation approved and I can't change it. If we fly out after the party, my vacation will be cut down to only a week. Third, I only get to see some of my siblings only at Christmas, so if I didn't go this year, I won't be able to see them again until next year. Fourth, my entire side of the family planned our vacation around the party date months ago. My original solution was to tell her friend's parents to keep their original date since my family planned around their schedule. My wife immediately shot down that idea. My second solution was for us to leave as planned, but change only my stepdaughter's ticket since she's on break and she's old enough to fly by herself. My wife shot that down too since she's also friends with the other mother and wants to go to the party. My wife's solution is for us to just fly out after the party. I don't like this idea at all because of the added cost and lessening time. Our talk turned into arguments that lasted all week. Last night, my wife put her foot down and said that we're not missing the birthday party, to which I replied that she's not missing the birthday party. I told her I'm flying out with our 2 kids as planned, whether or not she's on the flight. That took our argument to the next level, to the point my stepdaughter called me a jerk, so I tried to ground her, at which point my wife said I couldn't because she was justified. Everything is a mess now. Update. There are 2 common questions I think I should answer. It's a Sweet 16 birthday party. It's going to be huge with over 100 people in attendance and catered food. I've been told almost everyone in their class is attending. The other mother and my wife have been friends since the birth of their daughters. She helped my wife through her divorce, and my stepdaughter stayed with them for days at a time during the worst part of that process. Not the jerk. Did your wife and daughter fail to notice that although your family planned your trip around the dates of her friend's birthday party, her friend's parents couldn't be bothered to keep to their planned date, and they changed the party date for their family's wishes? So in your daughter and wife's eyes, not only does your daughter's friend take priority over your whole family, but your daughter's friend's extended family takes priority over your extended family. One of 2 things happen here in the minds of your daughter's friend's parents. Either they have no respect for you whatsoever and expect you to absorb thousands of dollars in fees to change your flights and expect you to miss half of your family vacation, or they actually don't really care if your daughter goes to this party or not. I think the moral rule that should hold here is that you don't break prior plans because you get a better offer. You made plans with your family for specific dates, times, and places. You and your family all spent a lot of money on this group trip where you could all see each other. You would be letting them down if you only showed up for half of it, and that's in addition to the money it would cost you to change the dates. Info. Your wife sounds like a stay-at-home mom. Does she work? Seems like she's awfully cavalier with the family funds. I can't imagine an average working person thinking this is a good idea. You had it right the first time. Stepdaughter stays behind and flies alone. You're the jerk for marrying a single mom. You and your wants will never be as important as her daughter's, no matter how much of a spoiled brat she is. When will people learn to stop making this life-ruining mistake? A lawyer's petty revenge on a sovereign citizen. I run across sovereign citizens now and again, the kind that like to file bogus legal documents filled with Latin phrases and notarized with a red seal to make everything official. These guys think legal terms are like incantations of spells. If you just say the right thing in a document, your legal problem magically disappears. Lawyers and judges hate these guys. They're super annoying. Years ago, I broke one of my rules and took a case for a friend. It was a family estate squabble, and my client's brother owed him money. The sovereign citizen brother got his greedy hands on his father's money outside of the estate process by getting himself made joint with his elderly father on some bank accounts. Pulling that stunt is a no-no in Canada. Definitely frowned upon by the courts. But so far, as sovereign citizen man was concerned, it was finders keepers all the way, and his father would be darned. I sent sovereign citizen man a letter demanding that he pay, and he stuck to his playbook. He paid my client with a check. The check was not your normal check drawn on an actual bank account. Instead, it was some weird BS thing that he got off the web. The bank the check was drawn on didn't even exist, and the check had all kinds of strange wording and fine print on the back. The thing about these sovereign citizen guys is that they have no notion of the consequences of the bogus documents and bad advice that they get off the internet. Sovereign citizen made a huge mistake by sending me the bogus check. "Can I cash this?" my client said when he showed him the check. "Go for it, but tell the bank in advance that you know it won't clear so that they won't think you're pulling a scam." So my client cashes the check, and of course it totally bounces. After the check bounced, we sued the brother for the money he stole from the estate. It was a short, simple lawsuit, just a few pages long. We served the brother at the house he owned, free and clear thanks to the money he stole from the estate. The guy had 30 days to defend, and on day 30, I got his defense, filled with the usual sovereign citizen nonsense. The defense also had a huge mistake in it, one of the biggest I've ever seen, and I'd been doing this a long time. Sovereign citizen started harassing me and my staff. He sent emails, letters, he left voicemail messages. He came by the office uninvited, demanding to see me and making threats. He kept it up until the cops said they'd arrest him if he came by again, but by then, it was time for his court date. So I'm in court asking for judgment, and the jerk genius is there, talking his legal babble, saying words he doesn't even understand. The judge shut him down after about 10 seconds and gave my client judgment. Sovereign citizen has a meltdown and is escorted out of the courthouse. Of course, he appeals, but I don't care, because of the mistake the guy had made right out of the gate. His mistake was serious and fatal. I don't know about other countries, but in Canada, if someone gives you a check and it fails to clear, you can sue for that. All you have to do is prove that a check written to you bounced, and that's all you need. The court will give you judgment. So when sovereign citizen man sent my client the bogus check, he handed my client an airtight cause of action and easy win of a lawsuit. And of course, I pounced on it. When sovereign citizen's check bounced, my client sued him for that too, in a separate legal proceeding that we started on the same day as the estate case. The two claims looked almost identical, at least on the front page. My client's name was the same, defendant's name was the same, and court file number was identical, but for the final digit. When we served the sovereign citizen with Claim 1, the estate claim, we also sued him on Claim 2. I think that he thought the second claim was just a copy of the first, because he only defended the estate action. On the bad check case, he didn't defend, and I had default judgment after 30 days. So a few months later, the jerk wants to negotiate. Even though the estate case is under appeal, an appeal he said he was sure he would win, he was willing to throw his brother a bone. He'd pay, but nowhere near the amount of the judgment. It was then that I let him know that we had sued twice, and that I had a judgment in the second action as well as the first, and that now the man's home was totally tied up with the writs I filed. "You better hope you win that appeal," I said to him, "because you're literally betting your house on it." Sovereign citizen did his usual meltdown thing, but once he was finished with the screaming and the threats, he had a bit of a come-to-Jesus moment. We settled with him, sort of. He paid back all the money he stole from the estate, plus all of my client's legal fees, plus some more, just for being a bit of a jerk and a sovereign citizen to boot. Later that year, he was at my client's house for Christmas dinner. Go figure. Families can be pretty weird. Am I the jerk for telling my stepsister that no one wants her to host Christmas? I, 21 female, live with my mom and stepdad. My stepdad has one daughter, Tia, who's in her 30s. Tia is married and has 9 kids with her husband. They also have over 7 cats. They live in a 4-bedroom house, but as you can imagine, it's pretty cramped. I haven't spent loads of time with Tia as she was already an adult when our parents got married. My mom and the rest of my immediate biological family really dislike Tia and her husband. I visited Tia's home quite a few times over the years, and it's always looked like an absolute mess. The house always stinks of cat pee, and you can't even see the floor where there's just stuff everywhere. The kids themselves always seem pretty taken care of, it's just the actual house. Tia's husband is also always working on do-it-yourself home projects that never get finished, which also just adds to the clutter and crap everywhere. In my family, we normally rotate around who's hosting the Christmas get-together. Tia last hosted it in 2019. It caused an argument between my mom and stepdad behind closed doors because my mom said if Tia hosts again, she's not going. As usual, the house was a mess. Tia's husband served everyone, including all of the kids of the family, seriously undercooked chicken. It was still cold in the middle. My mom pointed this out and they threw it in the trash. Luckily, no one had eaten it. They had no gifts for anyone, not even my stepdad, who spent over $600 on their kids. I know gifts aren't absolutely necessary, but this just felt rude. They then unexpectedly asked everyone to leave after we had been there for 2 hours, as Tia's mom and maternal grandparents were coming over. This year, Tia has volunteered to host again and invited us. My mom does not want to go and said we should just stay home this Christmas. This time, my stepdad actually agreed, so we're going to stay home. My older biological siblings also do not want to visit Tia again for Christmas, and all told her they aren't going and said they have other plans. Tia was pleasant about it over text, but on Facebook she made passive-aggressive posts about how her fake family doesn't want to visit her on Christmas. I may be the jerk because I was growing tired of seeing these posts. I ran into Tia last week at the store and she mentioned it to me, saying that she's hurt by everyone not visiting. I told her very bluntly we aren't visiting her because no one wants her to host. She and her husband happily accepted gifts from everyone but got nothing for anyone, tried to feed us raw chicken, and their house is a mess. Tia and I started arguing, and she said that we should have communicated to her like adults rather than just not visiting her. But I feel like some things are just common sense. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Maybe because she always lives like that, she doesn't notice most of the things people object to. However, serving dangerously undercooked chicken, still cold in the center, is something anybody should have noticed. This is just not safe. The chicken by itself was reason to not risk it again. The other awful things were just trimmings to the central problem. She's right. You are not the jerk for not wanting her to host, but your behavior is kind of immature. Yes, some things are just common sense, but sometimes common doesn't mean universal, and it sounds like no one has said a word for 4 years. Everyone sucks. What are you gonna do about it? Call the cops? I was a senior in high school when all of a sudden I got sick at school and had to be sent home. Because my car was in the shop, Mom had to come get me. It's about 9:30 a.m. when this happened. As we're driving up a very busy street, we see 2 kids who are about 7 to 8, we'll call them Frank and Zelda, trying to cross. Worried, my mom pulls over to see what's going on. The conversation went roughly as follows. Mom, are you guys okay? What are you doing here? Frank, Dr. Idiot said we couldn't come to school early, so he sent us home. Now, my mom was very familiar with Dr. Idiot. He was the principal at the elementary school my younger brother was attending at the time. My brother, Mark, was going through some behavioral issues at the time, and Mom was commonly called to the office, to the point that they were on a first-name basis. Not that he allowed her to use his first name, because I have a doctorate in education, so it's Dr. Idiot. So in other words, he was an entitled idiot. There was a gas station 10 feet away, so Mom tells Frank and Zelda to meet us there. We pulled in, got some water for the kids as it was a hot day, and Mom calls Dr. Idiot's cell phone. Again, the conversation went roughly as follows. This is Dr. Idiot. Mom, hi, this is Mark's mom. I have 2 kids here named Frank and Zelda, and they say they were sent home early. Yes, their parents dropped them off at 6 a.m. because they had to work. Something about mandatory overtime. Of course, we're not a daycare, so I told the kids to go home and wait for the bus. Mom, are you kidding me? We're 5 miles away from the school. They walked all this way. It's a wonder that nothing's happened to them. What are you going to do about it? Call the cops? Click. Mom was absolutely floored, but she decided to give Dr. Idiot a nice dose of reality. At the time, we lived in a small town. How small? So small that sometimes the chief of police would have to walk the beat. And that day, he happened to be a block or so away from the gas station. When he got the call, he arrived, got the whole story from not only Frank and Zelda, but from my mom and myself. And being a father of 2 elementary kids himself, he was upset. He looked at Mom and said, "It's time I had some words with Dr. Idiot." The chief of police drove Zelda and Frank to the school in the squad car, which they were super excited about, personally escorted them to their class, and then marched to Dr. Idiot's office and proceeded to tear him a new one, telling Dr. Idiot that he would help if charges were pressed on him. From that day on, Dr. Idiot allowed Frank and Zelda to be at the school early on the days their parents had mandatory overtime. Update. More details from my mom about why Frank and Zelda were just dropped off at school. Their aunt works at the elementary school and had agreed to watch them until school started a couple of hours later. She wasn't on the clock. Frank and Zelda didn't live in a good part of town, and their parents, understandably, didn't feel their kids would be safe if they were alone. If Dr. Idiot had driven them home to wait for the bus, it wouldn't have gotten on the chief of police's nerves. 6 a.m.? They were lucky to have the head teacher there to begin with. It's Frank and Zelda's parents in the wrong here. Told my Karen sister she's not a stay-at-home mom, she's just selfish. I want to make it clear, I'm not insulting being a stay-at-home mom, just my sister's version of it. I know how much hard work it is, and I'm not putting anyone down for it. But my sister really does just sit around doing nothing all day, while somebody else does all the work and then whines about how hard it is being a stay-at-home mom, and I've had enough of it. My sister, 26 female, and I, 24 female, have always been polar opposites, so we do clash on quite a few things, but generally we are close. She has 2 kids, Rose, who's 6, and Ty, who's 7, and I have a son, Oz, who's 2, and they're really close. Sister has always been a stay-at-home mom ever since she left school and never had a job, whereas I've always been career-driven. My job's hours can be long and irregular, but I love it. Though, if ever, say I'm tired or I've had a hard day, Sister has to one-up me and say how she's even more tired or has had an even harder day because she's a stay-at-home mom, so works 24/7. The thing is, all the things a stay-at-home mom does, she doesn't do. Both kids are at school, and her husband Dan is the one that gets them ready, helps with homework, cooks all the meals, they have a cleaner, and Sister doesn't drive, so my mom picks the kids up from school and looks after them until Dan gets home from work. Most weekends, Dan will bring the kids over to me. I live a 10-minute walk away, so Sister can have a break. So I don't have much sympathy for her, but most of the time I just let it go. But last week was half-term. I was able to get most of the week off, but on Friday there was an emergency at work, so I needed to go in immediately. My husband was away, and my nanny and babysitter were busy. So I asked Mom if she could look after Oz, as I had to go into work urgently, but she couldn't, as she was looking after Rose. I asked where Sister was, and Mom told me she was at home, but was feeling tired, so needed a rest. I said that she could bring Rose over, but she couldn't, as Rose had friends over for a play date. But I took Oz and rushed over to Sister's house to beg Mom to take him. While I'm talking to Mom, Sister came out. I explained the situation, but she said that as Rose has friends over, it would be inappropriate for Oz to be there. So I asked why Mom couldn't take Oz back home for a few hours and Sister watches her girls. Sister seemed offended by the suggestion that she should look after her own kid herself, and I had about had enough and knew this was just wasting time when I had to get to work, so said, "Well, thanks for nothing," and left and took Oz to work with me. It worked out fine, but I was upset with my sister. So today, I went over to Sister's house. I wanted to put the situation behind us and move on, but she brought it up. She said she was waiting for an apology from me. When I laughed, she told me I just don't get how hard it is being a stay-at-home mom. I told her she doesn't even know what a hard job is, and the fact that she calls herself a stay-at-home mom is a joke, and that she's just lazy and selfish. I left, and she told me that I'm not welcome back. Employee screams at a guy who ends up being the company's CEO. This is actually a story from my mom from a couple of years ago. She works for an energy company in the customer service, taking phone calls, answering questions, and sometimes helping fix simple issues. It had started not too long ago, and she was one of the few first employees, so right from the start, she knew pretty much everyone who worked there, including the CEO, who she describes as a very nice, down-to-earth guy who'd always dress pretty casually, so he'd blend in with everyone else pretty easily. After a couple of months, they started hiring more people to work, including this one guy who was apparently very entitled and considered himself better than everyone. Mom and a few others didn't like him because he was apparently arrogant, always tried to correct others only to be wrong himself, kept making the same mistakes, ignored many rules on the floor, and had a huge temper and would scream at anyone who said something he didn't like. The screaming would 99.9% of the time be something along the lines of, "Who the heck do you think you are to insert whatever someone did or said?" Many complained about him, but the manager at the time was too nice or scared or both to actually do something about him. One day, he was apparently playing games on his phone while at the same time talking to a customer and telling him all kinds of random wrong things when the CEO came to check the floor after a meeting. Seeing this guy, he walked up to him and calmly informed him he wasn't allowed to have his phone out while helping a customer, so could he completely focus on said customer for the moment. Cue the guy literally throwing his headset off, jumping to his feet and screaming in his face, "And who do you think you are to tell me how to do my job?" along with stomping his foot at each syllable. The boss stood there for a moment, obviously in shock, and the guy, thinking he had won, smirked all smugly before the boss pulled a, boss move. "Well, I just so happen to be the CEO of this company," he screamed back, even copying the foot stomping. The dumb guy lost the smirk and, according to my mom, went from angry bright red to pure white in half a second. The boss then calmly grabbed the headset, which apparently still had the customer, who heard everything, and apologized for what she heard and just asked her what she needed help with, finished in a minute, and before hanging up, once again apologized and told her the other guy was fired so it wouldn't happen again. As soon as he hung up, he told the other guy that he was serious and he'd better gather his stuff. In the end, the annoying employee was gone. The manager got a talk on dealing with bad employees, and someone baked the boss a cake. Grandma complied with Grandpa's request for 50 years, much to his chagrin. Something someone said to me today reminded me of this tale, and I thought some of you would appreciate hearing it. So, this is my grandmother's story. My family has been telling the tale for decades. Grandpa himself told it to his daughter's fiancé as a lesson in not understanding his new bride. Grandma told it slightly differently to my mom when she and my father were engaged. This is somewhere between the two versions. It's a lesson in be careful what you wish for, as you just might get it. Personally, I've always thought that it was hilarious. My grandparents were very old school. Grandpa got a job working for John Deere as a teen and worked his way up the ladder to foreman, then manager. Grandma was a typical housewife in the 1950s and was held to typical housewife standards. She was to cook and clean and be prepared to entertain Grandpa's business associates at a moment's notice. It was her job to make sure the kids were taken care of and never got in her husband's way. She was expected to have dinner on the table at 5:30 sharp when he got home from work. Her house and herself were to be impeccably kept at all times, etc. They were progressive and well off enough that Grandma had her own car. She was expected to use it to run the household errands and take the 4 kids to appointments and such. It was important that her husband not be bothered with such things. The household and family were her responsibility. He had a job. Well, one day, Grandpa arrived home from work, and not only was dinner not on the table, but Grandma wasn't even there. The kids, teens at the time, hadn't been fed. Their homework was still on the kitchen table, there were unwashed dishes in the sink, and a dozen other little chores hadn't been done yet. Most importantly, Grandpa was inconvenienced. He had been home just long enough to let his frustration stew into anger when Grandma's car pulled into the driveway. He began shouting at her before she had even had the chance to set down her purse or take off her jacket. He ranted about all the things she hadn't done because she was out running around when she should have been home, taking care of the house and making dinner. He worked very hard all day to provide for this family. Was it too much to ask for a hot dinner when he got home? She'd had a very good reason for not being home, but he never let her tell it, accepting no excuses. But she was a good wife, so she intended to let him vent for a while. Then she would serve him supper and explain what had gone wrong. Then Grandpa messed up. As sometimes happens when we speak in anger, he began to blame the wrong thing for his irritation. He began to blame the car and her access to it. He said something to the effect of, "You don't have any business out driving around anyway. You should be home. I should never have let you start driving in the first place. You shouldn't be driving." "You don't want me to drive?" Grandma asked calmly, retrieving her keys from her purse. "Fine, then I won't drive ever again." And she set those keys on the counter, put her things away, and served dinner. And bless her heart, Grandma stuck with that declaration no matter how much more difficult it made life. Grandpa had to take afternoons off in the middle of the week when a teacher scheduled a meeting. He didn't get a moment's peace on the weekends between grocery trips and taking the kids to activities or doctor's appointments or for haircuts or clothes. He had to drive Grandma to every Saturday salon appointment. Previously, Grandma had taken herself and the kids to church, letting him sleep. Now he had to wake up early on Sundays and take them all himself. Grandpa was nearly as stubborn as his wife. He held out, expecting her to apologize and ask for her keys back. She never did. Instead, she simply rearranged the household schedule so that he could handle all the driving. Months later, after never getting a single weekend to relax, after having dinner pushed back nearly every day because he had to drive someone someplace, he finally gave in and apologized. He tried to tell her that he was wrong and that she should start driving again. He tried to tell her that he now appreciated all she did to make his life easier. He all but begged her to take those keys. I suspect that Grandma had always disliked driving because she never did take back those keys. Nothing Grandpa said or did could convince her to get back behind the wheel. He had said she had no business driving a car and she was going to hold him to that declaration no matter what. For over 50 years, until the day she passed, Grandma never drove a car again for any reason. Not after the kids graduated and moved out. Not after Grandpa retired. Even after Grandpa passed in the 80s, she still refused because my husband always said that I shouldn't drive. Kids ask for chocolate over ice cream. Mom complies. This happened earlier today at the grocery store. A mom was in line in front of me with her 2 daughters. Neither could have been older than 8. Buying a random assortment of items, including roughly a gallon of Neapolitan ice cream. Suddenly, one of the girls looks over at a display of candy bars and her eyes light up. Mommy, I want a chocolate bar. She points to the display. Mom looks over and shakes her head. No, honey, we're already getting ice cream and you don't need a chocolate bar. The girl grabs one of the bars. But I want this so much more than I want ice cream. She waves the bar in front of her mom's face. She, the daughter, also pushes one into her sister's hands to get her on board. With both of her daughters now waving candy bars in front of her, she suddenly gets the look. So, you want candy bars instead of ice cream, is that it? The daughters are nodding and emphatically saying, Yes, we want the candy bars, not the ice cream. So the mom turns to the cashier and says, Can you please remove the ice cream? They don't want it. Cashier dutifully clears the ice cream from her order and puts the tub next to the register. She tells the mom her total and is handed the money. The mom starts bagging up her groceries while the kids tear open their candy bars and start devouring their treat. Right as the mom finishes putting the bagged groceries in her cart for the trip out to the car, the kids finish their candy bars, look at the empty wrappers, and then at the tub of ice cream sitting next to the register. Realization dawns in their eyes. Hey Mom, could we still get the ice cream after all? Mom has a smirk on her face. You said you didn't want the ice cream. You got the candy bars instead. The daughter, who started the push for candy bars, looks at the small, empty wrapper in her hands and back at the tub of ice cream. But this is so much smaller than that. Mom looks back at the ice cream tub and says, Oh my goodness, you're right. Seems like maybe you did yourself out of a lot of ice cream later in exchange for a bit of chocolate now. She sighs. Isn't that a shame? Daughter tries to turn on the frown. But Mom, can't you just go back and buy it? It's right there. She shakes her head. No, sweetie, I already paid for the groceries. It's the next gentleman's turn, meaning me. The cashier had already started scanning my groceries. The daughter takes one last look at the ice cream and their empty wrappers before turning and running away. Not too far. I think they just wanted to not see the ice cream anymore. As soon as they were off, I burst out laughing. Now that's a lesson. Way to go, Mom. She smiled back at me. Something tells me it's a lesson they won't soon forget. Because I'm in such a cheerful mood, I say, You want me to buy the ice cream so they can have it later? It would be no trouble. She smiles wider and shakes her head. Nope, if I let you do that, they wouldn't learn their lesson, now would they? Moral of the story, be careful what you wish for, kids. You just might get it. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.